Long Take Review, where college professors talk film, providing insight, not assigning homework. I'm your host, Jen Sobchak-Bankard, and I'm here with top men. Top men. First, he doesn't know. He's making this up as he goes. It's PT McNiff. How's it going, PT?
Bad dates. I'm doing great, Jen. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'll be doing better if Greg's response is monkey noises after that. No pressure, Greg. And you throw him the idol, he throws you the whip. It's Greg Cass. How's it going, Greg?
How odd that it should end this way for us after so many stimulating encounters. I almost regret it. Where shall I find a new adversary so close to my own level? Good evening, Jen. It's good to see you. Hey, I'm really excited to be here. You know why? I conned you two into extending Spielberg season another week. Woo! Round of applause. I hear it. I
heard you and Anthony say on Force Coast Conversations that it's the summer of Spielberg, so I think we'll just run with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say either of our arms were particularly twisted.
I know.
Yeah. By which I mean one text. And
yeah, Greg just threw his voice and said, "What about this movie?" And we were like, done.
So, dear listeners, if it hasn't become apparent, those were all references to the film, singular, that we are here to talk about today, Steven Spielberg's Raiders of the Lost Ark. This classic film, recently released into theaters to celebrate its 45th anniversary, introduced the leather-jacketed, fedora-wearing archaeologist named Indiana Jones. Joining Steven in giving adventure a name was George Lucas, who came up with the character and the story while reflecting on his love of old adventure serials. And, of course, who could forget Harrison Ford bringing the main character to life after being a late replacement for the original star, Tom Selleck. That alternate timeline boggles my mind. We wouldn't have Magnum P.I.
Well, right, maybe we would. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
That was a good joke.
The globe-trotting tale. Sorry, I just need to take a mental note. Greg never says that my jokes are good, so I'm really going to enjoy this. The globe-trotting tale takes us from Peru to Nepal to Egypt, with our hero facing off against rival archaeologists, scheming Nazis, and rolling boulders. Upon release, the movie became the top-grossing film of 1981 and received 5 Oscars at the 54th Academy Awards. Will we argue that it deserved more? Listen and find out, though you could probably guess what's going to happen there. Its legacy includes 4 film sequels, a television series, books, video games, and scores of imitators. More recently, the results of our Spielberg draft reinforced the fact that everyone involved was like, oh yeah, this one is the best Indiana Jones movie, even though some of us may personally prefer The Last Crusade. Unlike our regular reviews, we're going to start in spoiler mode from the beginning, just so we, this movie has been out, as we just said, for 45 years. So rest assured that we will all strongly endorse your watching of it. So if you haven't, for some reason, it's streaming on Disney Plus right now. That is how I rewatched it. You can just go hop over there, even fit in a nice rewatch, and then come back and join us for the conversation. PT, after this episode, listeners think we're digging in the right place. What can they do?
If listening to us caused you to write "love you" on your eyelids, then follow the Long Take Review wherever you get your podcasts. We host the feed on Jen's Substack at thelongtake.substack.com, but you can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, YouTube, and many more. Wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you're listening right now, you can find us there. You can also follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at The Long Take Review. You can also find us on Letterboxd. You can follow the account at LTRpod, or you can search for the hashtag LTRpod to see what each of us individually has been watching. Jen?
Thanks, PT. So we do want to plug an older episode of ours to kind of as a precursor to this one before the Dial of Destiny came out. Came out in theaters.
Just set it to loop the whole episode.
Yeah.
Well, there is an There is an infinity button. I don't know what it does, but maybe that's what it does. Anyway.
Save it for next week, Jen. Save it for next week.
Yeah. So before, in preparation for the Dial of Destiny's release into theaters, we did an Indiana Jones retrospective as a whole. We talked about and we ranked all 4 Indiana Jones movies prior to Dial of Destiny, and we did a different review just of Dial of Destiny after it came out. So there's lots of prior Indiana Jones content in our feed if you were looking for more. But today is all about just Raiders of the Lost Ark, and we're going to make a concerted effort to kind of zero in on that movie in a way that won't overlap with those other episodes.
Also worth noting, that was 3 years ago. That's
True.
like not like recent material. We could have all new thoughts about
what
we have all new moves on Indiana Jones that we've developed in 3 years.
You mean people can grow and change over time? What? No.
I mean, you all have thought of things other than Raiders of the Lost Ark in the last 3 years. Like my life is just this every day.
Yeah. All right. So that said, let's start with our kind of experience, relationship with, memories of seeing Raiders of the Lost Ark in theaters. PT, we don't want to make you tell for like the 5th time your story about when you were like 4 years old. So you don't have to do that. We can tease that and direct other people to the other episodes if they want to hear that. But
great.
I
thought that meant I shouldn't say anything. I was
I
like,
don't know.
there's no more to say. If we're talking about theaters, yeah, this movie's always been in my life. It's just been a thing, like a constant presence. I've always loved it. And I did see it in theaters. I saw the 3. I saw the trilogy. There was like a Wang Center, I think. It was one of the like usually used for live performances in the theater district of Boston, would occasionally do little like movie days. And I saw the original Star Wars trilogy there, and I saw the Indiana Jones trilogy. This would have been at some point in the like early 90s, probably like 91, 92. So a few years after Last Crusade. And it was just all day. Of course, back then it was on film, 35 millimeter, delightful. I've already mentioned this as well, that in the first movies I watched coming out of the pandemic, when we all got our shots and it was like, okay, it's safe to go back out into the world, was similarly the 3 movies played on film in downtown LA. I also recall seeing the IMAX release when they put this out on IMAX, I think for the 35th anniversary, maybe that was the 40th. But they put that out, and I have one of the posters. They were giving out the posters in the Burbank AMC, and I have that hanging in my garage, my little nerd space in the garage. So yeah, I mean, I've seen this a number of times. I did not get to see it. This is a fraudulent episode for me. I didn't get to see the 45th anniversary re-release in the theaters. Like Jen, I watched it on Disney Plus. I didn't even take my 4Ks off the shelf and put the disc in. I just streamed it on Disney Plus, but it looked great. It looked incredible. It's an amazing movie. And I would say from my experience across the decades, at least sort of 3 decades of having seen this movie in the theater at different stages of my life, what a ride. It's always a great time in the theater. For the people out there who have, like, maybe they don't go to the theater as often, or they're like, yeah, I love going to the theaters, but I don't really go see old movies. This is a great one to go see. If you've only seen it a couple times, if you've never seen it, of course, for sure. Even if you've seen it, 100, 1,000 times, it plays so well, and everyone has such a great time in the theater. Greg, what's your theatrical experience / general Raiders history? Although I know we also have all discussed our Indy credentials, but what do you got?
Yeah, so this is definitely, if I am not on this podcast, in my general life, I'm known as a Star Wars guy everywhere and to all people. But I always like to emphasize that I did not have Star Wars in my house growing up. I did, however, have Indiana Jones, and we had the original 3 movies on VHS cassette. And we're not here to talk about Last Crusade, but I always liked the memory that my parents bought the VHS of Last Crusade from McDonald's. Do you remember that they used to do this? Every once in a while, McDonald's would pick like 3 or 4 movies. And I don't even think it was like free with a meal. I think you just like also bought a videotape. as best I can recommend.
I believe that's right. And because, buying VHS tapes was like not usually cheap. It was like, it's only $28 instead of $35 to buy it.
Yeah.
Because like McDonald's got you a discount.
Yeah. And so that's like one of my earliest memories was like, rocking out at McDonald's and being like, why are my parents buying a movie? That's very strange. And so I had these movies around the house. I don't specifically remember the first time I ever watched Raiders. I'm sure that I originally watched them in order. And then I think after, as an adult, I'm trying to remember, PT and I were talking, sorry, Jen, before the mics were turned on. And one of the things I was saying is this has always been a pretty easy one to see in the theaters. I know here in Boston, the Brattle Theater, which I talk about from time to time, I feel like they've shown it almost every summer for at least 15 years or so, maybe 20 years at this point. And so I caught it there once or twice, which felt really special. And then I did go see it. I think I saw it the 30th and the 35th. And then I saw it last year, the Somerville Theater, made famous in The Holdovers. It's where Paul Giamatti sees a movie. He's in town doing a play right now, and I keep hoping I'll bump into him at the Somerville Theater, like that he just wants to go like live the real life. And so I saw it there. They did an F the Nazis film festival for reasons last year. And I saw it there in 35 millimeter. And I remember the projectionist came out and did his introduction. He's like, guys, like, I don't ever say this. This is a pristine print. He'd run it that afternoon. And when he put it on, it was beautiful, because there are some really scratched up ones. I don't know if they've printed new ones relatively recently or some such. So that was the last time I saw it. And then I caught it this weekend. My Father's Day gift from my son Henry was Henry, where did you get that name? It was to take me to Raiders of the Lost Ark at AMC. And I was gonna say, PT's right. Seeing it with a big crowd, and it was a nearly sold out crowd at my AMC. I'd say the first 3 rows weren't really full, and then the rest was full. Clearly a lot of dads much older than me. Like my dad age, so made me feel a little guilty I didn't invite him. But they even made it, it was only, I think it was $5. I actually felt stupid using my stubs for it, because I'm like, I could just pay for $5. But so it's kind of a nice touch that it wasn't a full price release, and the crowd was great and really into it. My favorite detail that I forget about when I watch it on home video is how many flies are in this movie. And I don't know if you can see it in the super HD of 4K, but in particular, there's a fly that flies directly into Paul Friedman's mouth mid-take on the island. And he doesn't notice it. He doesn't miss a beat. He just keeps going on, which is just incredible. So, this is a good movie, and PT's right. You should see it in theaters. And I said all of that despite the fact that it is, check some notes, from the 80s. Amazing. Jen, what's your history with Raiders?
Greg contains multitudes. So I do not have as great a memory as either of you, I think, for this sort of thing. I'm not sure if I've ever seen this movie in a theater. It's shameful to admit. I'm constantly the disappointment on this podcast.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to rate, review, and subscribe.
But I have to be honest, like it, because I definitely have seen other Indiana Jones movies in theaters, but I'm not sure I've ever seen this one. But that said, I've still watched it countless times. It would have been like on VHS constantly, in my VCR all the time when I was growing up. And it's one of those things where, like, I can't remember a time when I didn't know about Indiana Jones. And then I started going down this train of thought where I'm like, wait a minute, what if, because this is entirely possible, what if I learned about the plot of Raiders of the Lost Ark from the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular and then saw the movie as a child? That is entirely possible, because that's kind of how I think of this movie, is those like 4 like big action set pieces that they do in that show. So, which you only get to see some of them if it's raining. And Like, and I remember there were many times when we would go back later in the day to try to catch it again because they were like, well, we can't light stuff on fire because of the grease fire and the plane fight at the end. Anyway, so that's my fairly weird.
I love that shout out because I think I visited Disney World like 4 times, probably across 10 years. And I only then had seen all the pieces. I'd never seen the full thing because something was already broken. The first time I ever saw it, they couldn't do the boulder. And so they had like a little replacement gag where the actor came out and did the spikes and stuff. And then, like you said, they don't light off the plane. So I have seen it one time entirely.
In
and
full,
then
yeah.
When my last trip to Florida with my son, we went and they only did the opening temple. And then they're like, that's all we can do today. Thanks, everybody. And we're like, okay, that was 10 minutes long. So, yeah, crazy, but great. When it works, it's a great time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that's basically all. That's all I had. I was trying to distract from the fact that I probably haven't seen this in a movie theater.
I really thought you were going to say you learned it from Muppet Babies, which would also be acceptable.
Oh, that too. And I mean, honestly, like that's how iconic Indiana Jones was when I was growing up. Is that like the memory is fuzzy. Like I probably knew about Indiana Jones so young before I had even seen a single movie, and actually all through high school, it was kind of known that like Indiana Jones was it was Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and James Bond, and like those were things that people associated with me. But shout out to one of my friends from school, Steph. She was an amazing artist all through like ever since I'd met her in elementary school, and she drew a portrait of me as Indiana Jones, and I still have it. It's a digital. She did it like on a digitally, and so I still have it on my computer from the 90s. And
that's awesome.
It was like when she did it with like Microsoft Paint or something like that, and it looks amazing. so yeah, so it's always those are my credentials, even though they're not theatrical. I'm sorry.
I mean, all that means is we have to get you out to the theaters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I don't think he would mind. He won't listen to this because he's not seen the movie. That I'm going to put our once and future fourth chair co-hosts on blast that he's never seen an Indiana Jones movie, and he has said he wants to, but he wants to see Raiders first, and he wants to see it in a theater. And every time there's been a screening, which as Greg was saying, it's pretty frequent. Like there's usually every couple of months. It's always like just not aligning with one or both of our schedules. But I know there's the Frida Cinema in Santa Ana is doing it in late July, early August. And
that's closer to me than
that is right by you. So we'll see. We'll see if we can make that happen. It's also, I'm sure, happening in LA. We can try to get you up to LA, but we'll see it. We'll see it.
Yeah, I searched the depths of my email to be like, maybe I have, and I just don't remember. But all of the Indiana Jones related emails, like for movie tickets and stuff, were from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So, because I was like, wait, why are all these emails from 2008? Oh, wait.
This is also interesting because maybe this was discussed before, and this is a different movie, so I don't want to stray too far. But that this is our age difference coming through again. So probably neither of you saw Last Crusade when it came out in theaters. Like that was my dad and I went because it was like Father's Day when it came out.
Oh, wow.
And we didn't. I think we conceptually were aware that like Sean Connery's in it and it's his dad, but I don't think we realized how much it's a father and son movie. So like that's like a core childhood movie memory is going to see the newest Indiana Jones movie after me not being old enough to see the other ones when they came out, like seeing it opening weekend, like with my dad.
Yeah. Greg and I would have been 6, so that would have been tough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you believed in yourself and if you were strong, you could have done it, but that's probably a parent choice more than a you choice.
Penitent.
Yeah. Because I'm sure like not long after that, once it was like on TV all the time, that's probably when I saw it when I wasn't supposed to. Like I was still definitely too young to see this movie when I saw it for the first time.
Oh, for sure.
Well, yeah.
I think my earliest ever Indiana Jones memory is I had a cousin who was like 2 years older than me, and he was staying at my grandparents and borrowed our Temple of Doom VHS, and I passed through the room in the scene where Indy is like manhandling the statue and like grabs her breasts and pushes it, and I was like, I am not old enough for this. Like I gotta get out of this room. Like I am gonna get in so much trouble for being here, even though it was definitely my parents' VHS. Jen, only because I was walking in this area area recently, and it reminded me. Do you remember there was a day Crystal Skull was not out yet, but the stuff was, and you could like go. There was a Dr. Pepper tie-in. I think there was M&M's tie-ins, and we went out and with our friend Tim. And to the extent that we stopped at a restaurant for lunch, right, kind of near Pizzeria Uno on Huntington Ave. It was like a noodle place. And the waiter came over and was like, "Are you guys like a promotion team? Like, are you marketing?" And we were like, "No, we
wish. We
were just fans. So we bought all this. Thank you so much."
Yeah.
So we have the cred, even if we haven't seen.
Yeah. My oldest piece of Indiana Jones merch is when I went to Disney World. I bought a little Mickey dressed as Indiana Jones figurine. I still have that. He's got a whip and a hat that you can remove and everything. It's great. So that's probably enough of going down memory lane.
Let's talk about what the best Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah, so
it is the best movie ever. Period.
because I know that we're going to get caught up talking about the title character of this series. Let's start with your favorite character other than Indiana Jones. And I don't even know if we can count Marion. It's not really fair to compare Marion to the other supporting characters. I don't know what you think about that. We'll leave that open for adjudication.
Well, I mean, we could say nice things about Marion too.
Sure.
If we want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot of really great little characters in this movie, but I'm going to go with Tote, the bad guy, the like real scheming Nazi guy who burns his hand.
We are not thirsty.
Yeah, we are not thirsty. And when he comes and gives a salute to show he has the burn, the coat hanger maneuver, which apparently Spielberg wanted to do in 1941. He had that for the Nazi in 1941 as a bit, and he couldn't fit it in that overstuffed movie and just carried it over and put it in a much better movie. So yeah, and I also watching it again last night there were some things that I sort of picked out of it. Try to be like, what else can I say about this movie that we haven't already said? And one thing I like is how little respect he has for anybody else. Like he's always giggling at the like poor fortune of his alleged comrades. He's always laughing at Belloc and he's laughing at Dietrich when they open the Ark and it looks like it's just sand. He's just giggling because he's just like, "This, you guys suck." And he has no redeeming like connection to any other people. He's a void of empathy, and then his face melts and he dies, and that's awesome because he's a Nazi. So he's great. I love him, and he kind of looks like Peter Lorre, and that's apparently why he was cast, because Steven Spielberg thought he kind of looks like Peter Lorre after he couldn't hire the guy that he wanted to play the part, who I don't recall who that is. Klaus Kinski. Who's a crazy man and a bad man, but probably also would have been good as a crazy bad man in the movie.
I like Tote a lot as well. I did not buy the $130 replica that Regal Robot just put out of his hangar, but I almost did because I think that would be very funny to own and just walk into. I like start a class by doing that and hang up your jacket. That would be just brilliant.
That's how you get sent to HR, Greg. Just so you know.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. Nazis bad. Got that. I remember that again.
Well, don't worry. None of the students know the reference because they've not watched this movie.
Well, I was thinking more about like, we don't really need to get into it, but like, imagine a student like only coming in when you just have the before it becomes a coat hanger, and they're just like, "What is this?"
And running out.
That's what I would be worried about. Yeah, and running out and going straight to tell somebody like, Professor Cass has a weird thing.
I was noticing how awful Tote's hair is this viewing. Like I've noticed it before, but it's very strange. If you look closely at it, I think he's actually shaved some of his head to look more bald than he is. And
do you think he has a bald cap?
Yeah, I
don't
think
is it rubbery?
So. It looked more to me like you could see in the middle of his bald spot a kind of darker shade, like hair
Okay.
just starting
Sure.
to come back in, that kind of dark. And like he just is gross, and like that is, it all fits, and it fits with what PT is saying, and like he's just very wet, like ET apparently. And so he just like turns you off and every time. And I also will say it was only like within the last 5 years or so that I realized it's not him on the plane, right? When Indy boards his plane for some reason in San Francisco, which is also very funny that we get the travel by map from San Francisco, even though he presumably moved from Connecticut to San Francisco fairly quickly just before that.
I believe his college in these movies is supposed to be in San Francisco, at least in this movie. It's supposed to be like Stanford is the
then
idea.
It becomes Yale by Crystal Skull.
Yeah, I think that was more a filming tax break location thing. I think that's supposed to be more of that school, but it's actually still in the West Coast. It's in.
We need to see the
Northern California, where George Lucas is from.
Marshall College.
Marshall.
And that's supposedly, according to indianajones.fandom.com, a very reliable website, it's supposed to be in Bedford, Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
So
I always thought it was supposed to be like Stanford.
Greg's original question still stands.
I stand corrected. I don't know why he flew that way to get to Nepal. I guess you got to go East Coast.
International flights. You got to go to the hubs.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's all in the 30s. So yeah. But I on that plane when he boards it is a Pan Am flight, I believe, right? Spielberg loves Pan Am. It's Dennis Murin of ILM fame behind the newspaper kind of filling in. I don't believe they think he's passing as Toad. I think it's supposed to be more like a German sympathizer who's tracking Indy and tips him off. But it took me years to kind of realize that. So Toad's a great call and a great villain. I'm going to go with my more recent viewings have made me lean more and more into Belloc. I think this movie is set apart from the rest of the franchise because Belloc is so good. And I do like Donovan and I do like Ilsa in Last Crusade a lot. I will always remember when I went and got Julian Glover, who played Donovan's autograph, and I showed my son a picture of him. I'm like, isn't that Donovan from Last Crusade? You remember? And he goes, kind of. I was like, oh,
aww.
Not kind of, I remember, but he's kind of there. I mean, he's very old. We love you, Julian Glover, but and that man is cleaned up. He's in every major franchise, period, I think. So, but I think Belloc, played by Paul Freeman, is really excellent in this, and his kind of big scene with Marion where they're drinking together and he's making fun of his family label. He's just really good. And then how petulant he is for the next chunk of movie when he thinks he gets to keep Marion and has clearly fallen for her and then does not get to. So it's really I like him a lot in this, and it's a lot of fun to have Indy have so clear of a doppelganger.
Yeah, that monologue he has where he's like, I'm just a shadow of your own image or something like that, or reflection. I can't go. Sorry for not having the exact quote up in the top of my head. But I think really adds another layer because it's like based on the decision making that Indy makes in this movie, like where he's like, actually, Marion, I'm not going to untie you. Can you just hang tight for a little bit? I got to go do this thing. Like stuff like that, where it's like, oh, clearly his eye is so much on the prize and on the like kind of the archaeological mission that he's on that he's willing to kind of like make these other sacrifices. And I do think that putting him next to Belloc and Belloc saying you're really just like a nudge away from being me is very interesting, right? It's always interesting when our heroes and villains are like just one false move away from each other, right? I really like so normally my go-to is Marcus. But in this movie, I think I probably have to, because his part is a little bit smaller than in like Last Crusade, where he's like wandering around aimlessly, and he's like, Marcus is like a genius. He's gonna he'll know every next step before you do.
Blend in, disappear.
Yeah. And then they just cut to him being like, "Hello, can anyone help me find whatever?"
He doesn't want water because fish make love in it. one of the best throwaway lines in Last Crusade.
Anyway, so like I think I have to pick Sala in this movie because he lends so much warmth and heart, and just the fact that like he compares his own like 8 children to the Marines, like the American Marines, because he's like better than the Marines, huh? When they like when he sends them in to be a human shields for Indy. It's great. It's great stuff. But the idea that like he like and the that he I think so much about this movie, it's about a lot of things, but there's so much in the screenplay about like choosing the wrong friends, right? Because the Belloc says, I guess you chose the wrong friends this time because both the guys that are with him betray him and try to double cross him in that opening scene. So then to have Sala be like, oh no, this is the good kind of friend, right? This is the someone who you can always rely on and who will never betray you. And I just really like that his character is a counterpoint to the other people we meet in the film.
Andy sings Gilbert and Sullivan, which is just such a delightful part of that. If I was Antonio, I would have tried to sing my opening, because I do love both those moments, and it really would have fit with PT's Bad Dates. I recently read a book that I'm holding up, even though it's a podcast. So Steven Spielberg, All the Films, which is really excellent, and it goes through literally all of his television episodes and films one at a time. And I learned the desired casting for Sala from that book. Do you know it, PT? Because Tom Selleck is the famous one.
Only because I was just reading through the Wikipedia page.
Jen, do you know it?
No.
Who Spielberg wanted?
I did see it. It was Danny DeVito.
Excuse me?
I know, it's like, I mean, it's hard not to think of modern Danny DeVito, but even
Romancing the Stone Danny DeVito, which is not that different for modern. He's like a slime ball. But it was going to be Danny DeVito, and he could, similar to Tom Selleck, he couldn't get out of his TV show. He was still filming Taxi, and he couldn't get out of the filming for that.
So I had never heard that one, and I was like, that's absolutely ridiculous. And again, it was another kind of mind blow for me when I realized Sala and Gimli are the same actors, but John Rhys Davies still making the convention circuit happen beautifully because he's in those two franchises. And I think one of the best decisions in Last Crusade is to bring Sala back and to, like Jen is saying, kind of make him the safe friend again.
Yeah, the other alternate casting was potentially for Marion, where George Lucas wanted Deborah Winger and Steven Spielberg wanted his girlfriend, Amy Irving. Girlfriend / future wife, Amy Irving. And both of them were like, no, I don't want to be in this dumb movie. And passed on it. And, there's always on the Wikipedia page, there's always like a long list of things. But apparently they said Sean Young got to a screen test with Tom Selleck. So it could have been Selleck and Young, which very different movie. Would it be one of the like defining cultural touchstones if everything else were the case? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I like both of them fine. I always love Magnum PI. Don't get me wrong. I don't love reverse mortgages, but I do love Magnum PI. And so I feel like Tom Selleck could have been very fun, but I don't know if he would have elevated it to the level that it got to.
I have never heard Tom Selleck asked about it, but you have to imagine he views this as the sliding doors moment in his career. And he's had a solid career, but he has not had the Harrison Ford career.
It's the fork in the road with film on one side and TV on the other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Not as strong now as it was then, but you're absolutely right.
Would Harrison Ford have been in 3 Men and a Baby?
Well, it's interesting because they kind of ended up in the same place during recently, because Tom Selleck, the last big show he had was Blue Bloods. Right? And then Harrison Ford's been on Yosemite.
Drinking.
Well, it's a spin-off, like the 1921 spin-off.
Right. But to me, those seem like similar shows.
The 1929, the spin-off of Yellowstone. You guys, what time is it there?
Oh, no. Sorry.
This is not a TV podcast.
I just nodded along.
Yeah.
You got to correct me when I do that, okay? Yosemite. I mean, I haven't.
So-
if it's not apparent, I haven't seen any of those shows. So.
I want to offer the corollary on the question of favorite non-indie character with like favorite one-note character. Like there are a few
Featured
in
performer?
this featured performer, but even like they're so tiny here.
Oh,
So I will give mine, which is I look forward to every viewing of this, and like I tell my wife to get in the room, which is in the beginning of the truck chase when they go against the ladders and they knock off all these guys and they are all falling. And there's the one guy who falls on the windshield and is amazed at what's going on. And then Indy and the German look at each other like that was wild. And then they start punching each other again. I love that gag so much. It's just my favorite. It's my absolute favorite.
that's a good one. I mean, that's such a great small little moment that this almost feels too big to answer it, but I was going to try to squeeze in a shout out anyway for the character we all know as Major Eaton, which is William Hoopkins' guy from DC, one of the two men who show up from DC, who basically comes in early in the movie to be like, could you please explain all the things we need to know to understand the plot of this movie? And let's Harrison Ford and to a degree, Denholm Elliott as Marcus Brody show their professorial lecture skills. They get lectured, but he is like very clearly just like, I don't buy any of this, and I don't buy any of you, and I don't trust you, and I don't like you, and I don't like that your friend was mentioned in this telegram. And then he shows up again at the end to be like, we took your thing, don't worry about it, it's being dealt with somewhere. And he has the great top men line, which in my mind I always sort of think is the last line of the movie, but of course it isn't, because thanks to Marsha Lucas, there is that last scene between Indy and Marion, which is great, and I'm glad it's there. But top men is such a great line. And William Hoopkins had a great little career of bit parts or small parts, featured parts in huge franchises between Porkins and Star Wars and Eckhart in the Tim Burton Batman movie. So I wanted to shout him out.
And don't sleep on a few years ago, my Letterboxd project was the Harrison Ford movies I haven't seen. And I didn't finish them. I still have a few more. But Hanover Street, which is a World War II movie. And there's a scene where the two of them interact again. And I was like, wait, he interacted with Porkins in two different movies? And they don't talk in Star Wars. But it's like, there's no way. And sure enough. So
they were all in the same briefing. So, that counts. It's one scene.
Yeah.
All right. My answer to that probably would be the monkey, because there's one scene in particular where the
Just
monkey.
So Jen coded.
Sorry. I got to be me. All right. So the monkey who's a little so-and-so in this movie. Like, it's
a real
like,
stinker.
Yeah.
I just like when Jen gets salty. Is a real so-and-so.
Sorry. Yeah, I turn into a grandma. It's very bad.
Why I oughta.
I'm trying to not get the explicit tag. We've been working very hard to not have that. Okay, but anyway,
looking like the editor.
there's one scene in particular where like the monkey's in the passenger seat or the driver's seat of a truck in the window, and the monkey's like, "Do I go now?" And then the monkey handler is like, "Stand down, monkey." And then the monkey just goes like, "Oh, okay," and then kind of like crouches down. It's amazing. I don't know how they got that monkey to do that.
It's good. It's good monkey acting. There's no
all the way through. The monkey's very good. Yeah. Agreed.
Until she, I think it's a she, meets a bitter end.
Well, I mean, look, the monkey also salutes Hitler at one point. So it's okay.
Yeah, that's also kind of adorable.
The monkey's been canceled. I'm so sorry.
Wow. Right. Let's clear the audio track for Jen to say the monkey saluting Hitler is adorable.
I mean, there are lots of people making that gesture throughout this movie, so I don't know if we need to single out the monkey for doing it. Okay.
Well, I mean, the monkey doing it works so well because the Nazis then reply a second time to the monkey. They're like, "Oh yes."
And then kind of wonders like, what am I doing? But then moves on to his next bit of business. It's so good.
Yeah.
I think we also, but maybe this would go into best bits if we talk about that. But since we're saying like small characters, the swordsman in the Cairo Square is
really good.
Classic, worth discussing. The great that's such a great beat, and I think is one of the, there's two combination of things that I think make the movie work so well and also have made the character of Indiana Jones so enduring, is that he always gets the crap beat out of him. And he also has those moments where he's just like, why am I doing this stupid movie thing? Like, I have a gun. Let me just use my gun. And, that's, of course, comes from Harrison Ford on set, not wanting to film the long choreographed scene. But, works great. And you need the big, intimidating setup of the guy in brown face, let's be honest, swordsman who's waving the sword around, a big scimitar, to set up the fact that you think this is going to be this huge set piece, and then it's undercut, and it's so great.
Completely agree. And I think the big making of book that came out just before Crystal Skull, I think it had the actual storyboard, so you can see it was a long bit that involved them slicing up meat in a stall. Part of the sword fight is they would chop steaks off. It was very bizarre. So absolutely the right call, and I think you're right that's iconic. I had not known until reading that same aforementioned Spielberg book. The pilot in the airplane is Frank Marshall, future spouse of Kathleen Kennedy / producer of this movie. So he gets a little cameo there. I think Marion hits him with the blocks. Why do I say I think? I know. And I want to just, since nobody picked him, my second choice for tiniest cameo. Look, we all remember the Love You woman, who I think that somebody just caught up with that actress and did an interview with her. I think she worked in the makeup department that. So, but I don't know why it never registered with me that it's actually all women except for the one guy, and the one guy shuffles out at the end and sheepishly puts an apple on the desk, which Marcus then picks up. So again, just a great beat. And I think we've all worked on campuses. We know that professor as well. That, I mean, probably not to that extreme, but that everybody thought he was cute or she was cute, so they took that class instead. So it just cracks me up, and the apple is great. I really want Marcus to chomp into it, but it must be we need to do multiple takes. So he gets close and they cut away before he
breathes on it and rubs it and then just holds it. Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna say that scene is probably the one that holds up in terms of being dated the least. You know what I mean? Because
apples are good.
No, because implied inappropriate relationships between teachers and students is not good, right?
True, although it's not implied that he has any inappropriate relationships. It's that they have a crush on him, and he seems very confused by it.
The fact that that will be bookended by Dial of Destiny, where nobody in the classroom gives any thought to him, is so nicely done by Mangold. But the moment Jen's absolutely right, and the moment that stands out to me is as that scene starts and he's writing Neolithic on the board, and then he goes, "Wait, LIT." I'm like, that's me on the board all the time. I'm talking and I get halfway through the word. I'm like, wait, hold on. And then I finish the word. That is such a nice little bit of characterization. True to professors.
I believe my exact words as I was on my couch watching this last night to John was like, you don't understand. For some reason, when you get up there, all of your spelling ability is gone when you have to write something on the board. I don't know I can't explain it. Every word looks really weird. And you second guess yourself when you write it up there. It's just, a teacher thing.
I before E. No, this is an exception to I before E. Yes. And you all must experience this too. Then you do have some activity where students have to write on the board and they're like, oh my God, how do you do this? And for that exact reason.
And you're like, well. How the tables have turned. No, then you learn that none of them know how to write.
Yeah.
With utensils or implements. Yeah. All right. So do we want to do a favorite set piece or scene or a moment? Seems too small for this question. But I mentioned the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular has the boulder scene, the market scene, and then the airplane fight at the end. Am I missing one, Greg? Because you've seen it more recently than I have. That's it, right?
The Stunt Spectacular. I think that. Well, you said. Sorry, I was looking up something else, so you busted me. So the temple, the Cairo, and
Yeah.
then the airplane.
Yeah.
They don't do the Grail open or the Covenant opening, the Ark opening.
No.
So yeah, I think the plane is the big finale. I think it's the 3.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's some weird like audience participation thing I remember, where they have like a plant in the audience, and it's like a guy wearing a goofy hat or something. And
I looked at Wikipedia, and that is indeed the 3 acts of the Stunt Spectacular.
Thank you.
And I was distracted on Instagram the other day because they just started doing a new cold brew coffee outside of Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular that comes with a milk chocolate fedora. And I was like, I got to get that like now.
That's adorable.
But like, and that's such a special part of the fandom that you already mentioned, Jen. Also because I remember when I was a kid and I loved Indiana Jones, and then there was a gift shop. The gift shop went away during COVID. I think it might be back now, but it's like, I can buy Indiana Jones stuff. Like, I didn't know this was possible. And I got a Last Crusade poster, and I got a couple T-shirts over the years, and like it's like a highlight still of going there. So yes.
Yeah. Disneyland, there's no dedicated Indiana Jones store, but there's like in the where the Jungle Cruise is, the gift shop across the way has like a little corner that has
the Adventure Outpost for Adventureland, and that has Indiana Jones, like a section that grows or shrinks depending on how prominent Indiana Jones is in culture. Like around Dial of Destiny, there was like a decent sized chunk of stuff there. Yeah. And then it, kind of fluctuates.
I think that's true in Magic Kingdom too. They give because between Jungle Cruise and Pirates, there was a little space, and they had a few Indiana Jones. Sorry. So what I was looking up, Jen, is just a reminder to anybody in our audience, because I think set piece is one of those words people don't know what it means. So when you offered that, I was just making sure I had a good definition. So a set piece is a major extended sequence that acts as a visual or emotional climax, not a singular climax, but like a high point.
Right. And it's not the like scenery.
Right.
Like it's not part of a piece of the set. That's not what that's referring to.
Yes. It's more like something highly choreographed and something, very much thought out.
And the idea, the sort of genesis of this as a project was George Lucas, after American Graffiti, had 2 ideas, both based on old movie serials he liked. He had like the adventure movie, which became this, and the Flash Gordon space stuff, which became Star Wars. And for both of them, he was like, he wanted those kind of things where it's like every like 12 minutes, which is about how long maybe an entry would have been in one of those serials, there would be some big action thing, or there'd be some one of these set pieces to act as a sort of mini climax, and then it would be a series of those over the course of the movie. So, I mean, there's probably 6 or 7 major set pieces in this movie, and I don't know, they're all pretty great. Like they're all good. I mean, maybe one of them, which I won't necessarily say is my favorite, but I will shout it out because we're thinking of it not as one of the big ones, but the fight in Marion's bar in Nepal when the Nazis show up and then Indy comes back. That's such a great like sequence and shows how one of the it's not hidden, but one of the clear benefits that this movie has is how great Spielberg is at blocking people and moving them around with a kinetic camera for action set pieces, which I was thinking about this today. Like, it's so easy to sort of be like, yeah, Steven Spielberg. Like, we did a whole draft. We love Steven Spielberg. He's made all these movies. He's got this long career. His career wasn't that old at the time, and he was coming off a bad movie that had failed. That was the most action-y movie. So you could have gone into this movie being like, oh, he did Jaws. That was good. And it had like the boat and the shark. And if you knew about Duel, he had done the car and the truck. And then Close Encounters doesn't really have action. Like, there's some movement stuff, but there's not really action. And Sugarland Express had some car chases, but they were kind of standard in terms of the dynamics. It was shot well, but it was just kind of, a bunch of cops chasing a car. It's like, okay. So the idea of like how he filmed all these different pieces of action, all these different like moments of like the movement of people within a scene, and then the different kinds of set pieces we get through the course of the movie is just, it's so remarkable. And it's just sort of like, oh yeah, this guy's really great. Like, it must've been amazing to track this guy's career. I was trying to think about like, if I was mapping it to Christopher Nolan as sort of the guy who pretty early people were like, this could be a guy, like this could be one of the guys. Like, this is Inception. No, this is The Dark Knight for Christopher Nolan in terms of number of movies. And so the idea of going and being like, oh my God, like he just keeps leveling up. So yeah.
I actually just got served in the algorithm. I'm turning into our social media correspondent, but somebody actually walking through the blocking specifically of Indy's entrance into that scene, and actually shout out to our friend Dan Z, who was on our show talking about Mandalorian and Grogu. When he covered Indiana Jones a couple summers ago, he talked a lot about the shadows in Raiders, which is excellent to kind of talk about some of what Jen was talking about. Indy is a character that exists in the shadows. He's just a shade off from Belloc, and that the Spielberg shows that in his directing. And Dan explained that well, and I've always thought of him as I see the shadow play in this now. But the Instagram reel I saw was somebody walking through the blocking of Indy walking into the bar. And so it starts with Karen Allen at the back of the frame. And when the shadow appears, Indy has caught her off guard. So the shadow looms over her. And then as she kind of gets her footing under her from the surprise and asserts herself, she walks towards the camera so that she and the shadow are then the same size. And then as she then pushes further, she comes closer and Indy enters, so the shadow shrinks when she now has the upper hand. So it reinforces visually in a way you don't ever consciously register these differences between. It's like, oh man, he's just the best. Like that is so good. And you're right, it's every scene is thought out that well. And there, I think now that I watched that all the way through, I get like 10 of these a day if I log into Instagram, and you can just see people continuously find new and different surprises in that blocking.
The general thing that I clocked when we were preparing for our draft, like rewatching a couple things or trying to fill some gaps, and that rewatching Raiders definitely reinforced, is Spielberg is like the master of information through close-up. So like in E.T., it's like the jingling of the keys. Like he's always like doing a really extreme close-up on those, intercutting that with the action. Here it's like there's a scene, I think it's in the airplane fight at the end, but it's like, or maybe it's the chase sequence after that. It's something in that section of the movie where there's like a guy driving it. Yeah, I guess it's like him trying to take over the truck that has the Ark in it. There's the guy driving the truck, and then like Indy punches him, and then there's a close up of the guy's like foot or hand or something. Like, I'm not explaining this well at all. Sorry, but like there's a close up on the gas pedal. And then you're like, oh no, like bad things are going to happen. And then there's an explosion, right? So just like the way that that's cut together makes it so cogent and coherent in a way that is all visual. Like no one has to explain, well, because that guy passed out, like this is going to blow, right? Yeah. Like, what I mean? There's no one ever doing that in these movies. So, and I'm sure that's not the only example that I could think of, but
I do think, not to continue to be the only one answering the question I had initially come up with about the set pieces, but I think the truck chase in particular is correctly sort of elevated as just like a mastery of choreography, of just like, you always know who everyone is, where everyone is, what's happening, even though there's not like, there's not like these huge, helicopter shots or crane shots to be like, here's where all the people are. And like where this windy road is that's heading like kind of on the side of a cliff. But you just get it because like the close-ups and like, the close-ups show these random characters, even Greg's guy who just sort of pops on the hood or the windshield for a second. But, all the guys sort of fighting in the truck and the people in the other cars being like, we got to figure something out. All of that just works so well. And yeah, you're just never asking like, well, who was that guy? Or how did that person get there? Or like, what is going on? Or there's these quick cuts where you get a little bit lost. You are always on point, and it's masterfully done.
I think my answer to your question would be the airplane fight, because like just the fact that there's so many moving parts to it, like the fact that the plane is rotating while they're fighting, and that's actively like directing the fight, kind of, right? Because it's like because Indy has to like duck under the wing if it's like swinging around, and then meanwhile Marion is on the inside being like, everything's gonna explode, right? Like and he has to get her out, and like there's just so much Because like in any other movie, only one of those elements in that scene would be the whole scene, right? But instead, it's like this very complicated like gears turning sort of clockwork that really works well.
I think both of those are great answers, and both explanations are right. In the truck chase, I'm always shocked just how it's the whole truck. Like, I don't think I know any other movie where it's like we're inside, we're in the back, we're on the sides, we're over the hood twice, we're underneath once in a really cool way, and then once because you get smushed. And all of that just works exceedingly well. And then I think you're right, Jen. I would take PT's point too in that where you never have somebody being like, oh no, look, there's gas slowly pooling towards that fire, and in all the Netflixy rules of announcing everything because people are really folding laundry. This is a movie that warrants your attention, and it just grabs it and holds on to it. So I love that fight, and I love it. Is it Pat Roach is the mechanic who then did technically have a fight in all three of the original three, but he got cut out of Temple of Doom. But it continues to be a real threat. He got mostly cut out. I saw that face, PT. I think you can still find him, but it was going to be a longer extended, more like the mechanic fight.
Isn't he the guy who gets brought into the grinder? He's the head thuggy guy. That's a pretty big fight.
Wait, did he get cut out of Last Crusade then? I might have my Indy facts wrong.
Maybe that's what it is.
Naughty. But that the stunt team is there. Well, and both of you were reminding me as well to give a shout out to Michael Kahn, who is the editor of this film. Clearly, Spielberg knew what he was doing, but worked with an editor. And I believe it's true that he then edits. He wins the Academy Award for this one and for Schindler's, and I think one more. And he cut every single Spielberg film, I think, until Disclosure Day. And it's like, he's just simply too old. He's retired. He came back out of retirement for Fabelmans. Is like, I'm not doing this again, buddy. And so his assistant who had helped cut the previous films were there. So yes, my pick, I mean, I was going to say Truck Chase probably, but I will just throw in The Map Room, which is a quieter one compared because I'm more sophisticated. But like, again, that's a credit to not just the editing, but to John Williams, right? That scene is incredible. But the cutting back to Sala, who's dealing with his own little mini adventure. I always laugh when the Nazis first call Sala away from the opening. And he like walks most of the way down the hill, and then he suddenly does this very cartoonish like roll. Yeah. And it's like, did the actor trip? Did he just like, is this Sala the character being like, I know what will distract them. I'll do a little like, I don't know exactly how to interpret that. But is excellent. But then I think, and this is a point I should give credit to my brother-in-law, Jonathan pointed out to me one point that part of the Indy kind of constellation is there always has to be some time when he's like really doing the work and shows he's smarter than everybody. And to me, that's the Map Room here, right? Like that he's there. He's figured out the two sides of the medallion and all that, but you actually like see him doing the math in his notebook. And I always laugh too because they learn that it's their rod was one kadam too high, and then you also learn they put it in the wrong hole. I want the math to work that they actually, because it was taller and in the wrong hole, they got the right building. It just always strikes my mind. But the way they shoot the beam and the gem, kind of the shadow coming across the map, and it's very silly, like if you think about it for like 2 seconds, because you're like, oh, it's that one building, like we don't have to wait for it to get there, like it's clearly on its way there. But it's like captivating and it's brilliant. And I love Harrison in that scene, the slow pan from the headpiece down over Harrison's face, just beautiful movie making and beautiful movie star. And it's just like, yeah, that's why we just do all of this, why we do all movies. That's why moments like that.
Totally agree. And it's the Raiders March is so good that I don't know if I can stand by what I'm going to say, but it's possible the music in The Map Room is John Williams' best music in the movie. Like, it's so good. I mean, it's the Ark theme, I guess, but it feels like it's most present there, even more so than when they actually are like opening it or carrying it around later. And watching again last night, one of the, again, being like, what are new things I can think about and say? One of the things I thought it was like, there's these interesting sort of parallel moments in the movie where they set something up earlier and pay it off later. And the sort of big ones I was thinking about were like Belloc's, oh, this was yours for a second and now it's mine. From the fertility idol in the opening sequence, and then when he gets the ark from him, Marion's drinking competition things where it's like, are we first introduced to her where she can do this, so then when she's drinking with Belloc, it's like, oh, we know she can handle this, she can go deeper than him, and she's trying to set something up there. And then also just the idea of, we get this exposition scene about like, what is the Ark of the Covenant, what is this medallion that's being talked about, what is the process we'd have to go through, and we get Indy, Professor Academic Indy, in his suit with his glasses at the board drawing on chalk, showing these things, and then we get to see it in action, and no one has to say anything during this scene because all of it has already been explained. The degree to which we're praising it for not needing the like, there's gas going to the flames and, oh, watch out for that propeller. Like, you don't need to say that because those threats are maybe inherently obvious, but this sort of intricate, you got to find the right place and put the stick that's at the right height with this thing at the top, and it's going to hit, the sun has to hit it at just the right time. They've already explained that. That scene is somehow riveting, even though it is pure exposition. So then when we see it, it can just be this music and just be Harrison Ford's face and this like cool set design of this hidden room that's this little map, and the light coming in and the sort of like laser beam accentuation of how it feels going through the gem in the medallion. It's great. That's such a good setup and knockdown, and there's a bunch of those in this movie that work so well.
I'd say the other echo with that scene is later on when Belloc is opening the Ark, because his costume to me in that scene has always been really janky, where it's like, that looks wrong. That looks like he picked it up at Party City or something. You know what I mean? Like, like it comes in like a Halloween bag that says like,
right, like
Pope's assistant or something like that. I don't know.
Well, I think it would say Jewish ritual, and then it's
sure.
No, I guess this is it.
But anyway, so because to me, I've kind of wrestled with the map room scene, because that's when Indy, practically speaking, he's wearing that like sort of Middle Eastern clothing because he's trying to disguise himself as one of the diggers, right? So there's a functional reason. But I've always kind of bumped up against like, do we really want him wearing a turban? Like, is that the right move? I don't know. Just from like a cultural perspective. But I do think it works well if you think about it as like the more authentic version. Like, you know what I mean? If you think about him and Belloc as like, and Indy is the more pure archaeologist, where Belloc is the more opportunistic, kind of greedy, willing to work with the bad guys to get the glory that he wants, right? Their costumes in that way kind of like show that contrast.
Interesting parallel to the Grails at the end of Last Crusade, where it's like the ornate, showy thing. It's just like, but that's not real. Like, the real thing is just you're wearing what's useful and functional in this community, and that's going to lead you more closer to the truth.
Yeah. And doesn't in the classroom scene, doesn't he define grave robbing, or he says like, well, that's not robbing. So I think there's something going on throughout the movie with that too, of like what constitutes grave robbing for greed, right? Because in that explanation of the Neolithic site, that he's basically like, well, everyone was digging in this spot because they thought that that's where the gold coffin was, but then meanwhile there was this undisturbed chamber, right? Like, and so the idea that like that there's pure knowledge as the motivation for finding something, which presumably Indy has, versus like, we just want the riches and the glory and the gold, right?
I mean, your Last Crusade is showing, right? Which
yes.
is archaeology is the search for fact, not truth. Within that, yes, I think Part of what your comments reminded me of is that was the only Belloc action figure I think available maybe ever, is that costume. And I was always like, I want the white crisp suit Belloc. And
Yeah.
I think they maybe eventually got around to him.
The Adventure series had a Brody and Belloc in a suit 2-pack, which I definitely have somewhere.
Nice.
Stored away. But yeah, it was because people were like, oh, great, it's more men in suits. Because then you could also get Henry Jones and Indy in his Temple of Doom tux, and it's just sort of like, oh, they just made a suit body and just threw different faces on it.
I have Indy in his suit from Last Crusade. That's a great one. I was also going to shout out about the ritual. For whatever reason, it only occurred to me this viewing in the theater that picture that Indy pulls up in the beginning, that's a piece of Ralph McQuarrie art, which I didn't realize or I didn't remember, but I had a book of Ralph McQuarrie art. So for listeners who are normal people, Ralph McQuarrie is the concept artist who designed the majority of Star Wars, and he did the drawing that Indy refers to in the book, and the government guy is like, what are these lights? And he's like, I don't know, power of God or something. And so it only occurred to me when I was sitting there. I was like, oh, I have a print of that because I bought a big like coffee table Ralph McQuarrie book, and that was like the Kickstarter bonus was like, and they didn't have the Star Wars license. This is the non-Star Wars Ralph McQuarrie, so they were like, and you can have the print from Raiders and things like that. So, and I just kind of love that it's a lot of that same creative team, because this is, obviously Spielberg and Lucas at the height of their powers, and so you get these people coming back and contributing in those different ways.
I wanted to find some way for my opening quote to be from that moment when they open up, like, oh yeah, it's right here, and they show the image, and the guy from DC goes, good God, and Brody says, yes, that's just what the Hebrews thought. But there's really no way to say that without out of context, without it seeming kind of weird.
You could have said, didn't you guys go to Sunday school?
Yeah. Oh, I love that too. His face in that. It's like shades off of I'm Carbonite Sick Han Solo, but like just the good side of that. Mm-hmm. And we were joking about the board work before. The way Harrison Ford draws that, and it's him, right? That I think they fake it in Jaws, right? They don't actually draw it on the chalkboard. It's just there. And so this is like Harrison Ford delivering his dialogue and drawing it right there. I mean, I'd take his class.
According to Wikipedia, a website that I'm sure never has any problems with its information, and is not like the book that Greg read or the other books that Greg has read, because Greg reads a ton of books, did say that this part was supposed to go to Tom Selleck. Basically, Spielberg and George Lucas were like, he is 8 days away from being out of this pilot contract for Magnum PI. So can you let him out 8 days earlier so we can start filming this movie? And the network that had Magnum PI were like, oh, I guess this guy's going to be famous. Let's make this TV show. And so because they asked, they greenlit Magnum PI, and he wasn't available. So then they went to Harrison Ford, which initially they didn't want to do because he was too established, because he'd been Han Solo. And Lucas was like, I don't want it to be that I only can make successful movies with Harrison Ford, because he'd been in American Graffiti, he'd been in Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. But Spielberg is like, but he'd be really good. And the way, as seeing him in Empire and the different flavor of Han Solo and Empire, he was like, I think he'd be really good. And Harrison Ford's thing was, amongst a few other stuff he wanted to add in, he was like, I want to focus on this guy as a professor first, and he goes on adventures second. So the idea that he really thought through, how does he write on a chalkboard? How does he like present things in the classroom setting, and then in talking to these guys, totally tracks with that, as like he really he figured out how this guy would lecture and the way in which he'd present stuff, and it tracks so well.
And it strengthens the story too, because I feel like the ending of him being like, Marion, close your eyes, keep your eyes closed, don't open them, right? Whatever happens. And it's like they survive. They're the only ones that survive because he has the historical knowledge, right? Like he knows the legends and the lore behind the Ark. And so he he figured out what was going on, and then knew that was the way to save themselves. So like, it's so consistent. If you look at that scene at the end, and then you can trace it all the way back to him being like, we were joking, but like, didn't you guys go to Sunday school? Like, because he knows all the history behind because it's the thing they say right before that, like, you mean the 10 Commandments?
You're talking about the 10 Commandments.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's very funny.
yeah.
But yeah, knowledge is power. That's the moral of the story.
Mm-hmm.
I also love, now that I've done so much to show you that print from the Ralph McQuarrie book I love that he's like, oh yeah, I just happen to have this giant leather-bound, like, medieval text, it looks like, that he flops open because I was carrying it back from class.
Clearly none of them have actually had to go to an archival library and like look at something like that, because they make you wear gloves, like you gotta reserve a time, like it's a whole thing.
Well, maybe it was a reproduction of the medieval thing that he's allowed to have to bring to classrooms, headcanon.
And like just like plop down on a table,
right?
Unceremoniously,
but still like unclasp, like it has like a suitcase level, leather bind there with a little metal piece.
It is almost like the prop person was told it was going to be a scene where he dug it out of the archives, and then it became like just the book he's carrying around. And just because we're in those earlier scenes, I also wanted to shout out when Indy is trying to convince Marcus to let him go after Belloc to get the fertility idol. He says there's only one place he could go to sell it, Marrakesh, which is where the auction is in Dial of Destiny. So that picks up that strand as well, and then you get the tuk-tuk trace. So,
and to once again pull from a movie that didn't get made, that Frank Darabont script of the fourth Indiana Jones movie, one of the sequences, set pieces that didn't make it through into Crystal Skull is Indy. The opening's very similar, but Indy gets caught having assisted Soviet spies break into essentially Area 51, and can't answer for why that happens. He gets fired, and when he gets fired, he starts drinking, and he goes to the museum that's on his university campus, and it has the Cross of Coronado, and it has the fertility idol, with the implication being that, like the Cross of Coronado, even though he lost it, he still went back later. It was like, I still tracked it down. Whoever Belloc sold it to, I went and got it because that was my thing, and it belonged in a museum / my museum. And then there's a whole fight sequence with Soviet spies in the museum, and he has to save stuff while he's being shot at because they're shooting through like glass and stuff, and so he's catching things, which could have worked. I don't know.
Newest video game, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, has that museum in it. I don't believe you see those objects unless I didn't get to the corners, but the Museum of Marshall College does make it into that.
I gotta play that.
All right. Next question is, what elements of the franchise are set up here that you love the most? And is there anything you wish they hadn't gone back to, presumably in the other movies, right?
Yeah.
Or things only in this movie that you felt could have been explored more? It's a meaty question.
PT gave us some options later, whether we wanted to talk about the Kasdan, Spielberg, Lucas story conference or not. And I will just grab the third rail and say the most problematic part of that story conference is when they talk about the history of Marion and Indiana Jones. And anytime you do the math, it does not look good for Indiana Jones. And within the story conference, they're like, well, how young can she be? How about 12? Let's make it 12. And all of them around the table agree, like, yeah, she could be 12. And that would be okay.
In his defense, Steven Spielberg is like, she better not be 12. Because I think he was thinking about this movie's going to have my name on it more than yours. So, it is, all due respect, we love the band. George Lucas had a bunch of very bad ideas for this movie and this character. And Greg, you're correct. This is the worst one. Is he was like, this would be great because it would be very bad. Like, it would make him a bad person that she was 12. It's more interesting if basically he's evil and a pedophile. And then he's like 15 and 16 gets boring because that's kind of like, you understand that. And it's like, Jesus, George, like, calm down. And so
this explains a lot about the Phantom Menace. So it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at the math, Karen Allen's 9 years younger than Harrison Ford. That's just acting, the real life performers. And it's just like, so if Indy was supposed to have been 25, 26 in grad school when he hooked up with her, she's supposed to be 16 or 17. So that's a little bit dicey for sure, / illegal, and not great. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I will just correct you on that. The other thing is that Lucas had this because he had built it up in his mind that like he really wanted this to be his version of like James Bond and all the things James Bond could do. So he was like, I wanted to be a professor and an archaeologist, an adventurer, a playboy, and a kung fu master. So he wanted all 5 things, and he made Lawrence Kasdan write a version of the movie where there was both a kung fu fight with Indiana Jones, and also that when Brody shows up to say, okay, well, we've given you the money, we'll let you go, he was in a tux and had a blonde with him that he had to show out to be like, oh baby, I'll talk to you later, because he's a playboy and is hooking up with attractive blonde women all the time. And luckily Lawrence Kasdan and Steven Spielberg were like,
went in the other direction.
I don't know, dude. I think Professor and Adventurer is enough for what we have here, and doing more than that might be too much.
All right. So then when you take that, leave out the problematic parts and trace it
across
I was a child. 5. I mean,
that's what she says, right?
Like with something you could say about a 20-year-old. Like if you're like looking back, I was just an undergrad and you were a TA. Like that's bad.
Yeah.
That's also bad, but not criminal bad. That's more you're fired from your job as a TA bad.
Yeah. And knowing that we then again get Marion in 4, and then she gets lost again, and then comes back in 5. They're kind of rebounding. I love Marion, and I kind of wish Marion was around for all of them. If it's going to be 3 of the 5, in some ways, all the storytelling is compelling, but I can see the Bond reasoning of different girl every time. He essentially gets what you were just describing, PT. He gets the playboy aspect by the end of it, and but I would have liked to see Marion around. And then something I wish they'd carried forward is I do think there was talk around the time of Dial of Destiny at some Disney Lucasfilm thing. They pitched that they were going to do an Abner Ravenwood show, and I am still here for that. Like, I would show up. I think that's a smarter move than trying to make Indiana Jones content without Harrison Ford. It's smarter than it would have been to do Mutt Williams or what have you. I think it would have been really cool to kind of go back and have the kind of problematic guy, and it sounds like he was a Belloc, right? And maybe that's why they couldn't crack it, is we've done this guy in a lot of different ways. But I think more of learning about that piece of Indy's history, and there's a little Indiana Jones extended universe. There are a few novels, but they're all kind of like, it's just a year and he goes on an adventure and it just kind of resets. It's like Simpsons episodes or something. Like, he's always just back to who he is by the end of it. And so like, I think if you really track all of that, there's much more canon than I am aware of, but it would be kind of nice to get some of that content because, and we talked about this, I believe, in the long draft. People do think that originally Fedora guy in Last Crusade, in the opening part of Last Crusade, was supposed to be Abner, and that would have been like how they connected and started. And that could have worked. That could have been really cool. And I think you can headcanon that if you want. But I kind of wish we got. I mean, it's what PT said about academic Indiana Jones. I want to know about grad student, and I want to know about this mentor and all that stuff. That to me is some material you could write a really good tie-in novel or comic for.
Indiana Jones in the review of his tenure file. That's the one I want, where it's just the transcript of the 3-hour meeting.
Indiana Jones.
Explain to me what you did in 1934. Like, what exactly was happening here?
I was going to say Indiana Jones and his qualifying exams. Like, that sounds riveting. Well, I was going to say
Indiana Jones and the faculty hiring committee. Like, you could really.
Oh my gosh! I think you guys. We got a webcomic on our hands. That's what this is. Like, if those are still a thing. What was it? Oh, what I was going to say is, just because we talk about this so often with other screenplays, like, this is screenwriting 101. The imply a lot of story with dialogue that doesn't clog up the story that's happening now, right? So like the scene where Indy and Marion meet each other again, the barbs they're trading back and forth are so enlightening in terms of like their backstory with each other, but it never slows anything down. Like it's just moving the action forward still. And same thing with like Sala and like basically every supporting character we meet that is meaningful to him. We have some kind of back and forth that just by way of the dialogue tells us so much about the story that's not this film, but that happened either before or adjacent to it.
That's absolutely right. Literally every character. Solid, Marion, Belloc,
even
Marcus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, which is interesting because then it's like part of me is like, well, I wanted to see more of those. Like, show me more of the adventures, but you lose something when you're like, great, let me give you the backstory of, we'll do a prequel with Indy and Belloc, like the early years or a few years, 1933. What did they do? What did they get up to? And it's like, no, it's better left, and this is also this continuous Star Wars problem to go to the other big Lucas franchise, where it's just like, oh, the more you're filling in those shades of what's hinted, the more it feels a little bit like, oh, well, we're losing some of the magic and mystery of those implications and the sort of hints in the corner. I do feel like that area with Abner and even just Abner as his own character, and whether it's before like the younger days of Abner, and by extension the younger days of Indiana, not young Indiana, but like young adult Indiana, sometime after it's Sean Patrick Flannery, it would have to be somebody else, I guess, like late 1920s in the timeline, and what it's really Abner's story and Indy's just sort of the sidekick. He's sort of short round following him around. That I feel like that could have been interesting, but I don't know if I needed that in the other movies. And I also 100% agree that they could sidestep it with Temple of Doom, which is set obviously before Raiders, so it's like not weird that Marion's not there because in Raiders they're reuniting for the first time in a long time. But like even some sort of a throwaway, I don't know, like not even a throwaway, I don't know. It would be great if Marion was around. I understand. Ilsa's so great. Like it's great to have her. She talks in her sleep, all that great stuff. You kind of need them to hook up. And it would be weird if it was like, oh, this is Indy cheating on Marion. She's back home, like doing something else. But I don't know. I also kind of just feel like we could have gotten Marion adventures. She did her own, could have done her own stuff and her own treasure hunting. Maybe not the same like digging for archaeological stuff, but like going like doing negotiating and maybe grifting and sort of being out there doing stuff. That feels like there could have been more there, but then again it's like is hanging in that with the same characters apart from Indiana as the core one, is that going to end up making it all feel smaller as opposed to like resetting most of the time?
Well, a great moment in the midst of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is when they are reunited, and she asserts to Indy, she said, "I had a good life," and he's like, "Okay," and she's like, "A damn good life, a very good life." He's like, "Well, I had a good life too." Like it actually works really well in the moment, but I do really like that idea that Marion didn't just sit at home. I mean, so I think people know, maybe people are normal and don't know this, but Karen Allen had a couple more roles and then left acting, and she just runs a yarn shop in the mountains in western Massachusetts. So I assume she might have retired, but there was a time period you could just go to this knitting shop she ran and she would just like check you out, not like check you out, but she would like be your cashier at the register and like chat with you. And then I think got the call back for Crystal Skull, and I'm sure got paid really well. I actually was just trying to remember my Indiana Jones canon, because I mean the big tempting piece would be World War II, I think, and then we have the prologue in Dial of Destiny that fills in a little piece of World War II. And I think when they're on the train in the start of Dial of Destiny and the Nazis have Indy's belongings, he was carrying a portrait of Marion, which is obviously to set up that, which kind of is very interesting so I guess that would be after he and leaves her at the altar. Maybe he's remembering her, or maybe that's before he leaves her at the altar. You could build in the when was Mutt Williams born into the like flow of World War II. Like that could all be really interesting. I'm sure there are bigger fans than me who have actually mapped out all these pieces, the little shards that we have, but there's potential there.
In general, I kind of like that it's like they were perfect for each other, but never quite managed to get it together. Like the part of that being out of their control, part of that being in their control. Because there's even a line in this movie where she's like, "We really just can't catch a break, can we?"
Yeah.
I think their relationship
noticed
is more interesting if it's like that. If their Facebook relationship status is complicated, right?
Yeah. I did notice there's, I guess maybe it's a continuity error, but there's the great gag where she hits him with the mirror and then they're headed places and then he falls asleep. And that's when she says, "We just can't catch a break." And then when the boat has stopped, she has to stand up and put her Captain Katanga negligee back on. So it's like, wait, so he fell asleep and then you were like, "I know what I'm doing." It's like, something doesn't add up there.
It's warm on that boat. All right. She's,
I assumed we don't probably need to say this, but I assumed he woke up later.
Explicit tag.
I just assumed he woke up later.
Oh.
And then things happened.
Indiana Jones and the Conception of Mutt?
That's my canon. That
All right.
It was a long night and they didn't have anywhere else to be except on that boat.
Yeah. All right. If that boat's a rockin', stormy seas in the Mediterranean. Got it.
They're desperately trying to avoid a U-boat. Understood.
Wow. All right.
But shout out to Karen Allen just on the way.
Yeah.
Like all time, great character, great performance. The one criticism I will give is if you do watch her carefully in the background of some of the street scenes in Cairo, she was clearly not given choreography. She's just like kind of like, yay, like doing funny things, like while you're supposed to be focusing on Indy.
On the other fights, yeah.
Not her fault. Karen Allen innocent. And I think both of her returns as that character, I really felt, especially Dial of Destiny. Like, I'm like, that's Marion. There's real emotion here. She gets like 3 minutes in Dial of Destiny, maybe.
But it does work really well.
What else she does? Does she do Animal House? Is that her other big?
Okay. I mean, thank you, because I had looked up her filmography to like issue a light correction. Only because it was only in the 2000s that she did the textile thing. Like she had a robust career through the 80s and 90s, but she had been in Animal House. That's her breakthrough, and they basically cast her out of that. That's her first movie. I mean, I would say, at least in my mind, sort of her big benchmarks. It looks to be, at least, she's the female lead in Starman, the John Carpenter movie with Jeff Bridges. She's in the final shot of that movie, and she's doing an incredible job. She's the love interest in Scrooged, the Bill Murray version of A Christmas Carol. Very important for me and in my life. She apparently has a small role in Spike Lee's Malcolm X. Of course, we all would have expected that. And she's also in The Sandlot, which is, a well-beloved movie for people younger than me. Despite my love of baseball, I've actually never seen The Sandlot, but I'm assuming she's a mom of one of the characters, or a teacher, perhaps. And then she has a small role in A Perfect Storm, which is a very, very New England coded movie.
Yeah, I'm like basically living it. So I should go. I don't remember her in that.
I mean, I think it's very small. And apparently she's also in The Bedroom, which is a great movie, but that must be a very small role. But that's an excellent movie that maybe should have won Best Picture, but that's a conversation for a different day. So yeah, she was around every few years in what I think of as a prominent movie, and had other things interspersed in there. And I apologize for fans of these other movies that I've yada-yada'd past. Sorry for all the Ripper and Sweet Talker fans that are out there. But yeah,
there go our downloads. That's it. People are swarming away.
So she was doing stuff, but was not as prominent as she was. I mean, considering she's in, Animal House was a huge comedy. This is a huge movie. You would have thought that maybe she would have had even more going on, but maybe Hollywood doesn't treat actresses that well. It's hard to tell. And then she opened in the early 2000s, opened her yarn business. She got a honorary degree from the Fashion Institute of Technology. Greg probably knows about that from his fashion
absolutely
magazine work. And then got sort of pulled out of that semi-retirement for Crystal Skull.
I have a question for you two about Marion as a character. So do we feel like, and think about the answer to this in the context of 2026, not in the context of when this movie was made. Because like when this movie was made, Marion as a character, very strong female character, kind of unusual at the time, But like if we're kind of taking that part away from it, do you feel like she's a strong enough female character, or is she a consistently strong enough character? This is a leading question because I kind of have mixed feelings about it. Like when we meet her, she's definitely very powerful and can stand on her own. Clearly she owns her own bar. She wins the drinking contest, right? But then there's like, if you fast forward to like the market scene, she's essentially being passed around in a basket, right? And she's like, all she does is scream like Jones, right? And she's completely helpless. Yeah, exactly. Indy. Yeah. I mean, she calls him by his last name too, I think, in a couple of times.
Yeah.
And that's all she's doing in those scenes. Like, so like to me, I don't know if that's an inconsistency. Is that just like by the time this movie was made, we hadn't really made it far enough along for her to escape the sort of damsel in distress trope. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Your Honor, I would say she does knock out one of the guys chasing her with a frying pan in the Cairo scene before she gets captured in the basket. But yeah, I do understand what you're saying. She does have. It's interesting because in Temple of Doom, Willie Scott is like one of the reasons that character is sort of looked down upon and complained about, both sort of from people that are like, couldn't have been a stronger female character, and people that are like, women are annoying when they complain. Like both aspects of people, that she's always just like, what's happening, and the bugs, and I broke a nail. And that's like leaning more into that sort of helpless woman trope. So with that, and sort of, never really having much, I don't recall having cogent thoughts, certainly not, let alone advanced, adult grown-up thoughts about like these movies without those two being together. That I was always like, well, I mean, Marion knows what she's doing, but like, she's just in a situation that's it goes a little bit further than she's used to. Like she can hold her own in her bar, and she can, she could deal with the people who are around her. She can get involved in a couple of fights, but then once it's like the Nazis and their Sherpas are there, there's a lot of people, like she's got to get overwhelmed pretty quickly and needs support, needs Indy to come back. And similar in Cairo, similar in those other situations. So like, there's something to like, could there have been a little bit less Indy? Like maybe. I also think that the movie benefits from the fact that Indy fails so many times, and Indy is frequently put in a position of like, oh, I screwed up. Like I'm overwhelmed. I get locked in this thing, or I get like captured by the bad guys. So, I think that helps, and that helps make it not like that she's just a damsel in distress, but that like, it's just, this is a hard thing to do. That said, it is very clear, like the hierarchy of power, as it were, is like, she's going to be saved by Indiana Jones way more often than Marion is going to save him. So there is something sort of backwards looking in terms of that. How much of a problem that is, I think I think it's understandable. I wouldn't be upset if someone was like, I don't like that. I don't like that part of it, or that aspect. I'd be like, yeah, that's fair.
I was thinking about how if you have this conversation today, positive female heroes, the two names that get dropped way faster are Princess Leia and Ripley, right? Mm-hmm. Like as the two cornerstones from this era. And it's interesting that there is like, it's almost like the creators couldn't help themselves to eventually lean into the like matinee pinup aspects of it, right? And Jen just joked in the chat about like men keep trying to put her in dresses, and that's right, and that's strange, but also like the point of her getting put in those dresses is also men are gross, right? And I would kind of compare those to Padme's costume getting ripped just in the perfect sexy midriff exposing way. And like it feels to me like both are calling back to the way women are objectified in those serials, but Marion maintains something more there. And one of my early feminist sociology classes pointed to Jasmine in Aladdin as like the only power women have is to be sexy. So when Jasmine's captured, she's like, your beard is so twisted, and like gets all up on Jafar, and it's gross. I think there is a little of that when she's cornered, she uses her sexuality to her advantage. But I would argue in the scene with Belloc and the drinking competition, it's not just her sexuality. Like that is one of her tools she has to get the one up on him. And I think maybe tonight's theme is things Greg forgets when he watches Raiders. I forget that the knife goes nowhere, because it's so like telling when she puts the clothes down on the knife, and then it's like, oh my God, and then she's gonna pull out the knife, and it's like, oh, she's gonna like, and it's like, oh right, she like literally just, it's what PT said, she's in over her head. She's pretty good. She can overcome a skeevy guy in a bar or a tent, but like when the actual forces of Nazism and fascism are there, it's harder. But I will say I have trouble with Marion more in the sequence in the Well of the Souls. There's the shot where she's dangling that almost goes up her skirt, and I'm like, easy now guys, let's be careful, and then she is much more of like a comic relief Willie Scott there, where she's climbing on him and is like the whole floor slithering, and you get more of those Indy, the torch is going out.
Yeah, yep.
And then into the probably the part of Raiders I like the least is when they bust through the wall and the like skeletons attack her, and I just that sequence is just silly and goofy in the way that the serials were. So I don't like Marion in that little stretch.
Well, the way, just to interject, sorry, the way that shot is actually like very creepy, because there's that like bird's eye view shot where it looks like they're all the skeletons are like grabbing at her, and she's in the middle, and I don't know, that weirds me out. That was not.
It is one of those things I always forget is going to happen until the thing has crashed through the wall, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's the weird skeleton moment. That's okay. Like I don't think it's bad, but I do think, we don't need to talk about removing anything from this. Like what might be the best movie ever made. The moviest movie that could have ever been done. But if we were, it could be like, I don't know if we need that beat. Like they could just go from crash to the wall and then just pushing the thing out, the block out, and then making it outside. I don't know if you miss that much, but to Jen's point, it is effectively creepy. And I think it is one of those things where, she happens upon a place where there's a bunch of skeletons and she has the sensation of this thing is coming towards her, the one with the snake coming out of its mouth. I don't know why that's so gross, but it is.
It's a really gross shot in a good way. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, it is interesting to have like a little beat of her being frightened by these things and them looking more animated and alive than maybe they are because of what she's experiencing, and the whole thing ending with, and there's a creepy snake shot, but it's her and not Indiana Jones, the character famously afraid of snakes. Dealing with it is maybe a little strange, but gives her a little moment in the sun, I guess. But less successful than maybe some of the other little beats along the way in this movie.
Are those skeletons the people who were buried with the Egyptian pharaohs? Because that was a thing where it was like all of their servants had to get buried with them alive, right?
Sure. That could be that. Or it could be, it also could be people who were excavating.
Right, the grave robbers.
And got trapped and died, like in a nearby room. Because he talks about how there's something very worthwhile in one room, but the people are looking somewhere else because they think there's gold. That could have been what happened there. And that's the room where they thought it was gold. And then they all died because they got trapped. So I don't know.
I will also cite my book just while we're talking about Well of Souls. So Spielberg and Kubrick end up being lifelong friends, and they meet because Spielberg goes to scout the sound stage at Pinewood, I believe, and the soundstage they're going to build the Well of Souls in is the Overlook Hotel at that moment. So he walks into the lobby of the Overlook Hotel, which he himself will rebuild for Ready Player One. It's Elstree Studio, of course, and I didn't need anybody in the chat to correct me. I got it right. And so Kubrick meets there, but the friendship almost didn't happen because then Kubrick's daughter was still around Elstree and saw the way the snakes were being treated on Raiders of the Lost Ark and filed a complaint, and that got Spielberg and the production in a bunch of trouble because, I mean, by all accounts, they were deserved charges. And so Spielberg really was angry at Kubrick's daughter, but they eventually overcame that and, became very good friends. Eventually, blah, 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 AI, right, is their kind of collaboration. But I thought that was kind of interesting.
That's funny because I didn't know that story. The story I had heard was that once Kubrick became a friend with another director, he would call. So he became friends with Spielberg while Spielberg's scouting that location. He calls him after seeing 1941 and is just like, here's why that movie didn't work. And just gives him his breakdown of why it wasn't successful. And then it's like, all right, bye. And then Spielberg's like, okay. But then they talked after The Shining came out, and Spielberg was one of the many people when The Shining came out to be like, I don't think it's very good. And so he was trying to be like, oh, Stanley, there were things he really liked. Stanley's like, oh, you didn't like it. He could tell. He's like, you're trying to say things that are nice, but you didn't like it. And he's like, I don't know if this part worked. And then the thing I have seen is a clip of Spielberg talking about this. And he's like, after a few years, I kept going back to it and watching. I got a print of it and I kept watching it. I've grown to love that movie, but it was not what people were expecting when The Shining came out. And so maybe that was the sort of a weird power shift, is he can't be mad at Stanley because now Stanley's mad at him. And so they worked it out somehow through that process.
Hey, sidebar, PT, you see that Criterion Kubrick box set?
Oh my God, I did. I'm waiting for the half off sale.
Oh my God. It sounds so good.
I have all those movies already on multiple copies of physical media, but I still want to buy it. They're all 4K. All right.
Yeah.
We're back.
How many are in there?
All of them.
I can't believe I'm asking a follow-up question. What am I doing? But yeah.
All of them except Fear and Desire. The movie okay. From Killer's Kiss to Eyes Wide Shut, I think it's 13 or 14 movies.
Wow.
I think and it's only it's the first time the international cut of The Shining has been available, I believe is what I saw.
I can't be the first time because I accidentally bought a Blu-ray that had the international cut, which is shorter. So it exclusively had the international cut. Maybe that just means I bought a British Blu-ray. And that was my mistake, was it was cheaper, and that's why it was cheaper. But yeah, it has both. I think it's the first time that it will have both cuts, and as well as a remaster of the behind the scenes documentary his daughter made, presumably the reporting daughter with snakes, made a documentary filming The Shining, and I made a bunch of commentaries and essays from people that are all new.
It's gotta be so good.
It looks so good. It's also $500 or $600, so that's bad.
When we get invited to the closet, we're gonna grab that second after the Wes Anderson one. That's an expensive run at the closet. So,
it's true.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they had sets in the closet, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I know because one of the most Instagram algorithm clips from the closet is the Washington brothers. And one of them is just sort of like, I have this French New Wave movie that's this is really important to me, da 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 da, and then it's John David going, the Jackie Chan box set. I love Jackie Chan movies. And so they at least had that one, which is I think 3 movies. Is a 3-movie box set. So I don't know, maybe they don't have the Fellini
the
50
bigger ones
movie thing, but they've got at least some smaller ones.
I have a little bit more to say about snakes.
What?
So
right, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Just getting us slowly back on track. So one of you mentioned a little while ago that oh yeah, I think it was PT. PT mentioned earlier that the snake coming out of the skeleton's mouth, why isn't that Indiana Jones being freaked out by snakes? And I think the movie kind of creates this interesting dynamic where Indy, when he's with somebody else in one of these ruins, has to be the one that is unfazed by anything, because this happens in the opening scene too, where Alfred Molina is like, or Sapito, I think his name is, right? Is like constantly being like, and like he's the one who's like almost falling into the traps and stuff like that, and Indy has to be the one who's like he brushes all the tarantulas off him with like it's nothing, right? But then what's complicated about that in comparison to the ending scene with Marion is that, like, to me, the opening scene has always been to set up like the image of what Indiana Jones as a character would be in legend, but not in real life. And let me explain that a little bit more, because there's one shot where like, and the score is like really cooking in this moment, and he like comes out of it's when the first guy tries to shoot him in the back, and then he comes out of the shadows, and again he's hit him with the whip, and he's just like the coolest ever, right? And like just the shot and the lighting and everything in there is like, you do not mess with this guy, he's like the coolest guy on earth. That's his like James Bond moment, right? But then like by the end of that scene, I think it's, not to call out Greg's screen name on our call, my pet snake Greggy, which is great. But when he gets in Jock's plane and the snake's in the seat with them, then he goes, Jock, I hate snakes, I hate them, right? Like, and then suddenly the bubble has burst, the coolness has faded away, and it's like, oh wait, he goes into kind of like goofy, I'm just figuring things out as I go along version of Indy, right? Which is the much more, to me, seems much more realistic, where he's just like, one of my favorite reaction shots from Harrison Ford in this whole movie is like when he gets punched by the big bruiser guy in front of the airplane, and he just like stumbles backwards. Apologies for doing a visual bit on an audio medium, taking one from Greg's cue from Greg. But just the physical comedy he's doing in that, in stuff like that, is so incredible. But it's like really goofy, right? Like he's just like, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just trying to like figure this out as I go. And so to me, the contrast between that opening scene and the rest of, and like what the spell being broken kind of right after that, when he's like, I'm afraid of snakes, right? And he's like, grow up. I think Jock says something like, grow a backbone, won't you, or something like that. So directly in contrast to the image we get when we first meet him. So I think the ending complicates that a little bit, because it's like, in theory, snakes should bother him so much that like he's the one crawling on Marion and not the other way around. But he kind of has to. He's with Marion, he's forced to go into like, nothing's bothering me. I'm just like shaking. Like he gets to a point where he's just like waving fire at the snakes and he's fine.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if I ever thought he was fine. I guess I always thought he was just like, I'm in self-defense mode. Like I have to deal with this, and then he's trapped down there. That's interesting, because I always just thought of it as like, he's fearless except for the things he's afraid of. Right. And so it's like the tarantulas didn't bother him, the needles didn't really bother him, the spikes didn't really bother him. He wanted to avoid them. He wanted to get away from the boulder. The wave, the mass of natives who are amassed against him are, he wants to get away from them, but he's not like, I am particularly afraid of them. But then like the snake is the thing that bothers him. That's like just sort of like a little kryptonite for him personally, which is that, snakes, why did it have to be snakes? Like, if it was any other animal, right, I would have been fine.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. There is something that is like performative about, okay, I have to get it together, to, maybe to impress the people around me, but also just to survive.
Well, he even has a moment where after the Marion being caught up in all the skeleton scene, isn't he kind of like, are you okay? What's going on? He's very blasé when he finds her, and he's like, what's going on? Like, what's the big deal? There's skeletons.
There's a bunch of skeletons. They're all dead. It's fine.
Which kind of matches Satipo at the opening, freaking out about Forrestal, right? And it's like, like he deals with that. I think your point is right, Jen, though, because I do think when people talk about what makes Indiana Jones great, they always point to the fact that he gets beat up. And you're pointing out that the snake factor in his character is that same kind of deflation, right? And I think that he's more endearing because he has that flaw and that he can't hold that. I think, and like, again, with the crowd last week, the snakes, why'd it have to be snakes? Huge moment. People laugh all the time at that. And, because it's there. And that back to PT's question that we said, like, maybe what should have been left behind. We probably could have done with less snake jokes. I think they get diminishing returns, and you could tell I was thinking of All the Way to Dial of Destiny, where it's like they're eels, and it's like what? Like he's also afraid of eels.
They're the snakes of the sea, Greg.
Yeah, and then they're in Crystal Skull. He's sinking in the quicksand, and they throw him a snake as the rope, and he's like, I'm good. I think I can feel the bottom. Like and like all of those are like lesser snake jokes along the way, but yeah, I think I've read the ending as like he just is committed to the job and he wants to win, so he pushes his way through that. He's not particularly protective of Marion. It seems like he's just kind of putting up with her craziness in those later scenes.
All right. So it feels like a good time for the rhetorical situation, a segment in which we look at a film through the lens of our academic experiences. So all our regular co-hosts are writing professors. We like to have the section of the episode dedicated to making connections to our experience as scholars and teachers, as if we weren't being nerdy enough. Now we really, really want to ratchet it up. In the teaching of writing, the rhetorical situation refers to any contextual factors that influence composing and interpretation. We had a few choice topics in here to choose from. Sorry, it's just in the chat.
I'm going to say that joke on air. I will say rhetorical is one of those words that's like Neolithic to me. Like I get so hung up on remembering the H that then I keep writing and I forget
the rest of it.
Where I am in the middle, and I have to like same thing. It's not that I don't know how to do it. I just have to go back. Oh yeah, TOR. Yeah. And I always joke with my students when I introduce rhetorical situation for the first time ever. I'm like, rhetorical, look, it's a scary word. There's an H in there. What's it doing there? Why is it there? We don't know, but it's okay. Now you can use that word. So
what I wanted to start with is that, like, because this is like the most contextual or context oriented question that PT put in here, is this idea of like the film being made in the early 80s as a form of nostalgia, right? Like Spielberg and Lucas like trying to get back to the serialized pulpy entertainment of their childhoods or whatever, right? From decades past. And now that this movie is for, like, because we are arguably doing this episode because it's the 45th anniversary, right? Like now are we also being like, has Indiana Jones replaced, and this movie replaced, taken that spot of being like what we are wistfully trying to get back to?
Maybe. I think there is something to that. I also just think there's something interesting about looking at it, and maybe this is just the time perspective of like, we were children when this, you guys didn't exist, and I was barely alive when this movie came out, and then we all were single digit age when the other original three movies, the second and third movies came out, that it's like, okay, like this just exists and it's on its own. But it doesn't, like, even having gone back and watched King Solomon's Mines, watched Quartermain movies, and seeing, not too many, but some of the movie serials, it isn't like, oh yeah, like they were really trying to like beat for beat. Like you can see the like inspirations, but this does feel so much like it was, let's take those things that we like and make our own thing. Whereas nowadays it feels a lot generally like when there's something that's like hearkening back, it is not only like really copying what was there in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and maybe beyond, but certainly like those decades as the sort of 30 to 50 years in the past, but also frequently the same franchises and the same characters. Like we did have there. It wasn't just like, well, like they decided to go back and make another Indiana Jones type movie. They made Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and Harrison Ford showed up in his 80s, and they were, Karen Allen was back, and John Rhys Davies was back. Like they brought the people back. And so, there's something interesting about like almost like what did nostalgia mean? And I don't know if that says something about just, the corporatization of movie making, the IP nature of it all. It wasn't like there weren't sequels. It wasn't like there wasn't remakes and nostalgia. You go back and you can watch movies from the 30s and there was like, this is a remake of a movie from the 20s. So it's like, this has always been there, but there does feel like there's something interesting about this as a piece of what, could be labeled as nostalgia filmmaking, but still feels fresh and original on its own. And that could be because of my age / our age. Because I think about how only because I mentioned it earlier, I went and saw Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade with my dad. We also went to go see Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull when that came out. And I was on the other side of the country, so we couldn't go, but we watched it when it was at home. We watched Dial of Destiny. And my dad's thing is always just like, yeah, these movies are all great because they're all trash. Like they're all just like that stuff that I used to watch when I was a kid that was trash. And they do a really good job of making that. But it's like he didn't think King of the Crystal Skull was worse than the earlier Indiana Jones movies because he's kind of like, none of them are like great. They're all just like dumb adventure movies. Who cares? Like, and I don't think he ever thought more about them. And probably is like, why have you spent so much time thinking about them, son? Why are you such a disappointment? So I think there, it could be that, that's because that's his attitude. He was just like, yeah. It's like that old stuff. That's just a nostalgia trick. And the kids who are kids today are going to be like, there's already people who are like The Mummy. Brendan Fraser's The Mummy is actually like this amazing piece of cinema. Whereas I was always like, that's just wants to be an Indiana Jones movie. Like, who cares? And, maybe there'll be, I don't know what like current iteration of Stranger Things. It'll be like, they don't care about what Stranger Things was pulling from. It's just going to be Stranger Things is great. And then that was the core original memory for them. And then the thing that is pulling from Stranger Things 30 years down the line, they're going to be like, oh, this is just trying to be Stranger Things.
You're kind of describing like a cultural telephone game, right? Because what you're describing is sort of like with each generational repetition, something is lost in the process because the next generation will just be like, well, this is the thing that I'm using as my reference point instead of the thing that came before that.
Yeah, which isn't necessarily bad. Because again, I mean, I don't think anybody is really going to be, again, maybe my dad would say they're equally trashy. I don't think anyone would say Raiders of the Lost Ark is worse than the older movies that came. At the least, they would say it's at least as good and probably better in terms of the filmmaking quality. But I think once you start to wrap in, and again, not to keep going to the other franchise, but one of the complaints about Star Wars post Disney is that a lot of the people working on it, or, and it's usually just whoever you don't like who has worked on Star Wars, their inspiration is Star Wars. They don't go back to Kurosawa, Ford, and those sort of those are earlier movies, and the World War II fighter things, which our hero, our friend Ryan Johnson, had his list of movies that inspired The Last Jedi, and they were these movies from mostly the 30s and 40s. I think some got into the 70s, not Star Wars movies, but separate things. Couple samurai movies, couple World War II movies, and that's really interesting. And for the most part, though, it's like, all due respect, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, J.J. Abrams, they're like, I love Return of the Jedi, and I love A New Hope, and like that's what they're aiming for. And that does feel, because it's within the same franchise, like it's a little bit of copy of a copy of a copy. So I don't know. I don't know if it's because of the franchising or it's because of the game of telephone, why that feels that way, or if it's just an easy critique and a complaint to throw when you don't like something. And when you do like it, you're like, great, they did a good job. So I don't know. But yeah, there is something interesting about what gets lost versus what gets retained when things are done nostalgically.
I think it's a really interesting question to ask right now. So if you'd asked me like 2 or 3 years ago when we were getting nothing but Lego sequels and IP, and I mean, the forces you're describing are not totally different than the Marvel Cinematic Universe backstory either, right? Like all of these things. And, we are talking as, Supergirl is out there supergirling. And by all accounts, everybody's just like, oh, it's like Guardians of the Galaxy. We're feeling those vibes again. And it's like, oh, okay. Like we're nostalgia for that recently. Like that's really not that long ago. But I do think that, as we've talked about on this show, like the rise of this horror bubble, I actually think is the same thing you're describing. The relationship between Indiana Jones and the adventure serials is the same as, this is the SAT analogy, is akin to the wave of horror movies coming out and the YouTube videos that these creators were raised on, both in the short form turned long form. Sometimes a creator, like the Backrooms creator, takes their exact project and expands it and develops it more. But it's also that way in which this is seemingly a cycle of a new generation of Hollywood kind of taking over and breaking through. And I think you're right to describe, people would look at our 3 hours on Indiana Jones, just a guess at this point, and say like, wow, those are just old peopling. Like they don't understand the like change that like that's over. And I saw this a little bit. So we are on the verge of a new Minions movie, which has always been after my time as a person who enjoys movies. And it's like, oh, okay, I don't get it. I don't disrespect it, but I don't understand it. But the like gentle Minions thing was essentially this: like, I'm now an adult, and it's funny to be fancy and pretend that I could still go enjoy my childhood thing. And with Toy Story 5 also out, there were a lot of things getting passed around social media that's like, how old were you for each of these Toy Story movies? And I think that's another version of what you're saying, where it's like Hollywood has stalled out for like 20 years. And so we are just nostalgic by getting the same product over and over again. And Star Wars is a big component of that. I do think that, what we've seen in the last year is that the value of that nostalgia has gone down greatly, right? And the audience just isn't there. And unfortunately, we got to say it was true for Disclosure Day. Great opening weekend, huge drop. It was true for Mando and Grogu. Like, that audience nostalgia is not enough anymore. And what is getting people at a younger age. And frankly, like, it's about time that teenagers were like, you know what I don't want? My dad's favorite movie again. I want my own movie. I want my own. And it's great. And I've been established as like super critical of something like Stranger Things, because I don't understand why that is like, you wouldn't just go watch the things that was inspired by it. But I think you're right to say that there's a new generation that is going to be such a key part of who they were and their identity and so on. So, I think there are hints. I would say all the horror stuff we've talked about, I would also point towards how everybody's showing up for anime in the movie theater, whatever these like, series finales or just season premieres of these animated movies that can somehow make thousands and thousands of dollars. Why did I say it that way? Millions and millions of dollars. like
10 or more dollars at the box office.
So they really are. They're leaving me out. And I do get very critical of critics who assume if they're left out, then it's trash. And I guess I'm critical of PT's dad. That, like, it's like, yeah, it's not for me, so it's bad. Whereas I try to be more open to say, like, no, there is something happening here. And I think it's exactly what you're saying. Finally, the younger generations are like, I'm sick of all this dad crap and mom crap, but I'm sick of what my parents loved. I want my own new things. And that's why I'm really excited as a moviegoer right now, despite my love of all of these characters.
To defend my dad slightly, he meant it was his trash. Like, he was like, this is the trash I love. But like, he's not like, he wouldn't be like, oh, it's because it's so good. He would just be like, yeah, like, he loves Star Wars. He loves Indiana Jones. He loves Ealing studio comedies from the 40s starring Alec Guinness. But he doesn't think they're like masterpieces of cinema. He's just sort of like, yeah, this is like, and he watches NCIS. He's just like, this is great, but like, whatever. Like, I'm not here to argue it's Shakespearean. It's just like, whatever. So,
I take away all disparaging comments and realize I actually need to log off and just go hang out with your dad. So
yeah, correct.
We're going to go.
Yeah, just Alec Guinness Film Festival, and he'll tell you about the time he drove Alec Guinness in his car.
Oh, I'm there. I'm going right now. It's 2 a.m., but I'm going to go knock on your dad's door. Tell me about it.
I have one thing to say, and then we can move on to Oscars Watch. What both of you are saying is really reminding me of something I've been having to spend more time on my classes. That's largely because of AI, but also just because of other things. But is this concept of originality. And I think, going back to PT's original question, I think what the difference between the different approaches that you're describing is something that is inspired by something that came before and is still original has to reconfigure that old inspiration and not just rehash it or recreate it, right? And so I do this activity in my class with my students where I have them all come up with examples of like, what's something that you love to like a book, a movie, some form of art or culture that you love that you would consider wholly original. And then I force them to explain why. Part of the point of the exercise is half of them just say, well, because it's original, I've never seen it before, right? And they don't. So it's like I have to prod them more to be like, no, but what makes it original? What exactly is the part of it that you haven't seen before? And when I push them in that direction, many of them conclude, oh wait, it's actually taking this other thing that I know and sort of running with the ball, right? And it's like and moving forward and doing something new, either taking two different genres and combining them in a way that hadn't been done before, or taking an old genre and sprinkling in something new that will make the whole thing new and original. And I think what Indiana Jones movies do that makes them original, even though they are deeply inspired by and homages to these older serials from decades earlier, is that they took the sort of spirit of the original genre, but then added new things, right? Added new elements, and kind of to forge something totally new holistically, right? And whereas something like a legacy sequel has no interest in doing that, right? It's purely helping us return to the thing that already existed and repeating what we already knew to get that like dopamine hit of like, oh, I remember this thing that was really good. And it's not attempting to take the old thing and add something new.
I agree. But I think that something to add to that or augment to that of like when legacy sequels have worked, and I think also ties into when Raiders of the Lost Ark works, is not just necessarily when it's like we're adding something new, but when it's just like, it's just really well done. Like, which maybe this sounds like boring to say, but it's like everything about this movie is great. Like Spielberg's directing is incredible. We talked about the lighting, the cinematography, Douglas Slocum. I'm also setting us up to go into Oscars watch because these are all things that got nominated. The score, John Williams score, these, directing, cinematography, score are 3, and Best Picture are the 4 awards it was nominated for and didn't win. Spoilers for Oscars watch. But like, if we think about what are the legacy sequels that, we think really hit, I mean, Mad Max Fury Road, like incredible. Blade Runner 2049, like what a really well done, like a piece of movie for us. And folks disagree or just wrong. The Last Jedi, Top Gun Maverick as well. I mean, that's not necessarily like, oh, it's adding new elements. It's like, it's just really smartly made and well done. And so I think that there is something also, and again, this feels like it to a degree, this is trying to be instructional. It feels a little dumb to be like, oh, if you're going to do all this, well, just be really good at it. Like, just be great at making this movie. Be as good as Steven Spielberg, George Miller, Denis Villeneuve, etc., Kaczynski, and Rian Johnson. Like, yeah, that's all. Just be that good, and then you won't make a unfulfilling, empty legacy sequel / piece of inspiration. You can really add to it and grow. So yeah, part of it is like what you aim to put in, but also part of it is just the fates working with you, that your talent and the luck of things falling into place, because Steven Spielberg was just coming off a movie with a lot of talented people doing a lot of talented things that went awry. And it was just like a mess that doesn't work in 1941. And this time it all came together and it worked really well. So, sometimes it's skill and talent and luck in addition to good choices. And you can overcome some of these potential nostalgia traps and flaws by just being that good that it succeeds.
I was desperately trying to think of something that combined all that linked all the examples you gave, but my brain's too tired.
It's my Blu-ray collection.
Nice.
What is 5 movies that have been
all,
on my
well,
shelf?
All of those examples you named do have like new characters in some
True.
capacity. They might be alongside the older characters that are repeating.
Sure. But a lot of the bad legacy sequels have new characters
have
too.
the same thing too, yeah.
And but the new characters are overshadowed by the legacy ones, and then it's sort of, we don't know what the balance is. So yeah, it's hard that like what exactly is the best way of doing it. And again, Raiders is in being inspired by, and there are things that are inspired by that come out and are bad. And it's like, this is going to be the new Ghostbusters, and it's just like a supernatural, what was the Watch, where it was like the aliens come to our neighborhood, and it's like the 4 guys who get together, regular Joes who are the neighborhood watch, and it's going to be like Ghostbusters and Men in Black. And it's like, no, it's not. It's going to just be bad, and no one's going to. I can't believe I remember it exists for this example. So all due respect, apologies if there's people out there who love.
I was thinking of Evolution. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, the Duchovny.
That was the night I graduated high school. Everybody was like, "This movie's supposed to be awesome. It's like Ghostbusters and Men in Black. It's gonna be and it was the like dumbest thing." So it's always tied to my. I was actually thinking a little bit about Devil Wears Prada 2, which we can say in the safety of not being near Antonio, is a pretty good movie that we all thought was successful, right? And like similarly, I think it did the original formula but added a swerve, like really added the content we discussed about journalism. And I think the list from PT, most of those have that new kind of element added in. The one I can't make work with that is Top Gun, which Top Gun is basically like, you want to see more planes? Like maybe it's the technical ability to shoot the like IMAX cameras in the plane and all that, like that is the swerve. But for the most part, there's like, I think we could cut all this out and simply say, if you start by thinking of something you want to stay instead of money you want to make, you'll probably be okay, right? Or you'll be that much closer.
All right, I think we're gonna wrap up with Oscars watch. Look back at how this film did at the Oscars. So, PT's alluded to some of these, but Raiders of the Lost Ark received 8 Oscar nominations, plus a Special Achievement Award. Oh, I did not know about that, so that'll be interesting to hear about in a second.
Okay.
Yeah? Oh, no.
Well, just the Special Achievement Award is, I don't know if they still do it. I think they may have zoomed past it. But basically, for a window of time, and our nostalgia childhood movies are included in this, like from the 70s through the 90s. Basically, if a movie was so overwhelmingly nominated that like no one else was going to be nominated against it, they didn't give a competitive award. And they just were like, you got a Special Achievement Award. It's like, we're not even going to pretend that anyone's going to wait till the ceremony for you to get it. So it becomes weird because it takes away an Oscar nomination from the movie, but it was also like, it was so good. So like Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, I think both have these for visual effects where they're just like, what are we doing? We're going to give you visual effects, of course. Like we're not going to pretend. But then that means that's one fewer nomination. So yeah, it got a sound effects editing Special Achievement Award. It's that like no other movie was going to be nominated against it. So it just got the award straight up.
Oh, that makes sense. That does seem like a weird system, so I'm glad that we don't have to deal with it now.
Yeah, they changed that.
The other Oscars that it won were in the categories for sound, art direction, film editing, special effects, and it lost Best Picture, Director, Score, and score is tragic, and cinematography. How do we feel about this? Is this a decent haul? Would you have given it other awards? What do we think?
I was going to try to throw to Greg, but he's already looking something up.
Sorry, I wanted to see what won Best Picture that year. Was there something that cleaned up?
Chariots of Fire is what won Best Picture, and which I've never seen. But it did win. It also won Best Score, and I do know the score to Chariots of Fire, or at least the like, bum, 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 bum. So I'm like, all right, well, that's memorable. And it's kind of cool that Vangelis has a Oscar, and I'm like, well, we could take away Vangelis's Oscar and give him an Oscar for Blade Runner and give this to John Williams, but then you're taking away John Williams' score for E.T. because that's who beats Blade Runner, and that's tough. So now it's like, all right, I don't know what to do. This sucks.
Yeah. So
And
my main reaction then to that list is that that's pretty solid. I think score is tough, but that is logical. Like the way you just explained that PT, I agree with. So I think it's fair to say this was viewed as like a popcorn movie. This was not a film with a capital F, so that the Oscars didn't necessarily take it too seriously. My question for you both to throw it to you with is, now that we, with all due respect to Mr. Ford, have seen the arc of his entire career, it seems clear that everybody thinks it's a crime he has not won an Oscar. And it seems like after Woody Harrelson's barn burner of a Golden Globes performance, that we probably won't get an honorary Oscar for Harrison. SAG award. Apologies. Is this when Harrison should have won? Like, what do you look at across his career and say that's the one we really should have given him one? Because I feel like, I love you, Han Solo, but I feel like Indiana Jones is name one in the character, name one in the obituary. Obviously, the obituary will say Harrison Ford, but it will say iconic actor behind Indiana Jones and Han
Right,
Solo,
that's
and
getting
it will
listed
be
first.
in that order.
Hmm.
So is this it, or is it? I mean, I know, PT, you have a shelf full of Witness action figures behind you, so maybe it's Witness.
Well, I was going to say the critical consensus, having listened to a lot of other people talk about this question, is most people say, well, clearly he should have won for Witness. Like, that's his best dramatic performance. But that's a genre bias. Like it's the most, like the logic there is that it's his most dramatic performance, therefore the most worthy of an Oscar.
it is also the only time he's been nominated. So
Right.
it's the only, pure point spending Oscar Ferry flashback rules. It's the cheapest thing to give to him. And he lost that year to William Hurt in Kiss of the Spider Woman, a movie I've never seen. William Hurt is a great actor, but was definitely a terrible person. So it's almost like, who cares? Like, take his Oscar away. He sucked. He was bad to Marley Matlin. Like, who cares? You don't get an Oscar, William. Go home. So that seems easy enough and would be fine. But yeah, I mean, I think if you were saying I can make a change, you could say, oh, like, wouldn't that be great to say Harrison Ford should win it for Indiana Jones? And what is the best Indiana Jones movie / best Harrison Ford performance? Yes, that's correct, Jen. Harrison Ford got his revenge on William Hurt by taking over his part in Marvel because William Hurt died. So he outlived him. He doesn't get an Oscar, but he did get to be Red Hulk.
I mean, yeah, that's just a weird universe conspiracy.
But so, I do feel like this makes sense. It makes sense for it to be that that it's, that it could be, that it could be 1981 for Raiders of the Lost Ark, that would be the time for Ford to win. The winner this year is a little tough to displace. I mean, again, I haven't seen this movie, but it's Henry Fonda for On Golden Pond. Henry Fonda pulled the Glenn Close hope / Paul Newman reality of getting the honorary Oscar of, we're really sorry we never gave you an Oscar. And then a year or two later won this Oscar for On Golden Pond, a movie that everyone liked. And I think was like, I mean, it wins both him and Katharine Hepburn for lead actor, lead actress. Jane Fonda is nominated in supporting. And it's nominated for director and picture. So I will note directing went to Red. So I feel like it's between Red's Chariots of Fire and On Golden Pond as the top movies this year in the actual race. Whatever the Oscar race looked like in the early 80s, not the same as today. But so that's kind of weird to be like, screw you, Henry Fonda. I mean, if we're doing domino effect, it could be like, we go back further and give him a 12 Angry Men Oscar or whatever to try to fix the Henry Fonda thing. And then we can give it to Harrison Ford, all due respect to these other nominees, including the aforementioned, still not winning, Paul Newman for Absence of Malice, Burt Lancaster for Atlantic City, Warren Beatty in Reds, who does win. He pulls the Bradley Cooper issue of getting director but not getting actor. I guess Kevin Costner is a better thing because he actually won director. And then a delightful nominee, Dudley Moore for Arthur. What a great choice. What a weird time the 80s were for the Oscars. So yeah, I think that would be cool. My when you said that, Greg, my immediate thought was, what should have won? Harrison Ford should have won his Oscar for Working Girl, supporting actor, because Working Girl's a great movie and he's great in that movie. That's the year that Kevin Kline won for A Fish Called Wanda, and I will never touch that win. That's an amazing win that I would never want to take away. So I don't know. I don't know what would be the best. I mean, maybe we'd have to go look back at The Force Awakens. Is that like, could we get him the legacy? That's the
like, it's time.
Yeah, that's the Henry Fonda. That's the like, oh, we screwed up in the prime of your career. Let's give you the old man performance award for, and I think The Force Awakens would be a little bit more, there's a little more oomph there than Blade Runner 2049, despite me mere minutes ago claiming that's a better legacy sequel than The Force Awakens, or at least including Blade Runner and not including Force Awakens. Ford is more prominent. That could be interesting. I don't remember.
Sean Fennessy's made that case a couple times lately. Like, it's clearly on his mind after rewatching Force Awakens with his daughter and being a little renewed in Star Wars fandom prior to Mandalorian and Grogu.
I mean, we didn't do that. We already did the Oscar Ferry flashback. And we did not do that. That's Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies, one of the Spielberg wins, with Sylvester Stallone creeping as the one that people thought would win for a legacy performance. Sorry, Greg.
Well, I was just going to say, I also, my read on Spielberg's career at the Oscars is if he was not going to win for Jaws, which he did not, then I like keeping him hungry until Schindler's List. Like, I love this part of it. I would keep that. I also, to reference Big Picture again, they just did a Spielberg draft of the 21st century Spielbergs. Did you listen to that?
No, not yet.
Do you know what their number one is? Just to spoil it fully. Skip if you need it. They went Fabelmans, number one for 21st century Spielberg. And I'm here for it. I'm 100% here for it.
That's surprising.
So, that's
you should listen to it. It's a good episode.
Wow.
But I think PT's making the case that Harrison needs a good juicy part that's not shrinking and he could find one great last role and go home with a thank you for a great career Oscar. But I think other than that, I would leave these. These feel pretty good.
That's over Catch Me If You Can, Minority Report, Munich, Bridge of Spies, West Side Story. It's over all those movies. They say the Fablemans. Okay, that's an interesting choice. I like the Fablemans. Don't get me wrong. Come on.
Catch Me If You Can, they point out, is eligible, is part of the ranking of 21st century Spielberg, but does feel like the last of his 20th century films, which is really interesting in some ways. But
interesting in terms of being a cop-out. That's fine.
It was very high. I mean, everything you just mentioned was high. I think they were saying the most surprising to them was Bridge of Spies was way better than they had remembered. So
I agree. I will just say I like what you're saying, Greg, about keep Spielberg hungry. It is very funny that he gets pipped by Fellini for the Jaws in the Jaws year for a movie that had already won Best Foreign Language the year before, but then was eligible because, again, crazy old Academy eligibility rules and when movies came out, that he's like, oh, Fellini, because Fellini wasn't eligible in the precursors. But there was at the Oscars that, if it's not keep him hungry, if he wins for E.T. instead of Richard Attenborough for Gandhi, am I mad? I don't think so. But for his career, I think you're right. Do we get to Schindler's List and Jurassic Park if he's already gotten the big prize? I don't know. I don't know about that. So,
also Lincoln's really good. I kind of want to give one for Lincoln.
Yes,
he gets nominated for Lincoln, but no win.
Yes,
the only one for the two.
He's only one for Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan. It's kind of criminal that he hasn't won again.
Yeah,
across these movies.
All right,
cool.
Greg is about to have his face melt like Tote at the end of this movie, so we need to save him. Greg, plug. You've been busy writing lately. Now's your chance. I'm sorry we saved it till the end. After
that's
two
quite
and
all right.
a half hours.
Actually, I plagiarized both my recent blog entries lately on air tonight. So it's clearly just some of the ideas I'm thinking about. But over on ioncannon.com, which is just a lander page for my Substack, I did my full disclosure day review, which talked a little bit about these issues of nostalgia versus innovation. And then I also just took as my blog post topic this week, I get asked all the time, why do I watch so many movies and why do I read so many books? So I tried to answer that question and kind of piece through some of my feelings about it. Those are up on ioncannon.com. Hey, Ion Cannon, that's also my Letterboxd and Instagram name. Check those out if you want more Greg content, including face melting. PT, where can people find you?
You can find me mostly just on Letterboxd at PT McNiff, PTMCNIFF. You can see my lead over Greg in terms of numbers of movies watched this year slowly deplete. I think over the course of the summer until by the end of the year, Greg will probably be 100 movies ahead of me. I'm just guessing that's how this is going to shake out. And you can also find the show there at LTR Pod. You can look for us on social media, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at The Long Take Review. You can email us, thelongtakereview@gmail.com. You can also follow us wherever you get your podcast, wherever you're listening right now, add, subscribe, plus whatever the mechanism is, and listen for our new upcoming episodes as they come out, which of course we all know what those are going to be and what movies we're going to be talking about. Jen, how about you? Where can folks find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Sopchockchai, SOPCHOCKCHAI, or on Letterboxd at Qui-Gon Jen. Now you can sing the Sala song.
A British man is a Warrington, that sing as the mountains be. Is an I don't know the words.
You could have just done the earlier one. I remembered 2 hours ago, and then I forgot now. Where he's like, "I am the monarch of the sea." Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks for listening. You can follow The Long Take Review on Substack at thelongtake.substack.com. Subscribe for free, and you'll be the first to know when a new episode drops. You'll also receive occasional written reviews of new Star Wars and Marvel.